All right, I think we're live. Push a one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a one in the chat. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 529, Black Economics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust from those posted on the community tab. There's a document in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Also, make sure you update your Zoom client before you join the panel. Version 5.0.1 is available. Just as an FYI, we are not certified financial planners. If you want a certified financial planner, go to cfp.net and look up one in your area. We do not give out financial advice on this channel. Let me drop the link for you all. We can get started. Let me give a shout out to the people who showed up first in the chat. Excalibur, salute. David Moreau, peace. Bishop Red Pill, salute. The Azure, peace. Jackson J, peace. Rashawn Barr, peace to you. Trav, what it do? Black Scorpion, peace. All right, let's get started, man. All right, first item on the docket is from yahoonews.com. Automakers adjust to new normal as they prepare to reopen plants. This is from last week. Let me expand this out. A growing list of automakers hope to restart their assembly lines, some as early as this week, as manufacturers battle to prevent a record sales slump from steepening. The 54 auto assembly lines, along with hundreds of parts plants, ground to a halt in mid-March as the extent of the coronavirus pandemic became increasingly apparent. With new car sales drying up, that didn't matter much for the past month. But with sales starting to rebound, according to a new report by JD Power manufacturers want to be positioned to meet resurgent consumer demand. Kia, Volkswagen, and Mercedes are starting up Monday, with Honda getting people back into the factory by May 1st. Fiat, Chrysler, and Ford are formally scheduled to start up on a rolling basis on May 4th. And GM has also started advising workers they will be coming back next week. May 4th also should see Tesla, Toyota, Hyundai, BMW, and Volvo start up. Subaru is set for May 11th. However, the process of reopening won't be like flipping a switch. It will take some time to, among other things, get everyone used to the new plant layout and processes automakers have pointed out. The main challenge will be ensuring that employees can take their place on the assembly lines without having to fear getting potentially deadly COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. Hundreds already have, with several manufacturers, including Fiat, Chrysler, and Ford, reporting a number of fatalities. There is no going back to the normal for the foreseeable future. We have to adjust to the new normal, said Chris Reynolds, Toyota's chief administrative officer for North American manufacturing operations. The May 4th restart day is an opening day, not the day we're going to begin making cars, he noted. The Japanese automaker, which operates a network of parts and assembly plants in the Midwest and South, offered some insight into the steps it is taken to protect workers when they begin to report back next week. Workstations have been re-engineered to increase the distance between workers, said Sean Suggs, president of Toyota's big assembly plant in Mississippi. Even cafeterias have been redesigned and plastic sheets have been installed between sinks in the factory. So this is what we're up against now, man. They're so desperate to sell vehicles that they're going to great lengths to actually create social distancing in a place that social distancing is almost abnormal. I mean, you work right next to your assembly line worker. What are you going to do? It's kind of weird that they're taking these steps now, but they have something bigger planned later. They're going to try to automate all those jobs as much as possible, as fast as possible. They wasn't just, waiting on the sidelines to try to redesign the plant so that there's enough social distancing. No, they're looking at all options. And if that means that they have to automate some of these jobs with robots and cobots, then so be it for them. That's how they see it. They're definitely planning something bigger. You don't take that much time off just to put some tape on the ground to say you need to stand right here and put up a plastic sheet in between a sink. No way. There's no way. This is just the beginning. All right, this is from BusinessInsider.com. The coronavirus is a nuclear bomb for companies like WeWork. 10 real estate insiders lay out the future of flex office and how employees are preparing now. Yeah, this sort of setup, this is dead in the water. This is completely dead in the water. Millions of workers suddenly forced out of the office are discovering that they can work from home, and in some cases that they want to work from anywhere but home. The coronavirus pandemic and its unattended mass work from home experiment promises to reshape the offices to which many employees will eventually return. Employers making real estate decisions now are weighing how to safely bring their employees back, and bigger picture, exactly how and where they'll have offices in the coming months and years. Before the pandemic, flexible office companies like WeWork made up a growing sliver of real estate. 2.3% of leasable space in the US as of the first quarter of 2020, according to JLL Research, and the sector has grown an average of 23% per year since 2010. Now, insiders predict a short-term pinch for the industry as employees fear returning to dense floors in some of the small businesses that relied on these spaces cut headcount. But in the long term, 10 real estate experts, from employers to landlords, said they expect flexible offices to be even more critical component of real estate as companies hesitate to lock in long-term leases and rethink their real estate footprints. But not every provider will survive. This was like a nuclear bomb into flexible office. It temporarily blew it up, said Saeed Gabriel, who plans real estate for Japanese financial services company MUFG, and previously worked in WeWork's enterprise division. from the strategy side, it's still a tool in the toolbox. That strategy is not going to change. Caragable, who works out of New York, said signing a short-term contract with a flex office provider like WeWork would be a better deal right now than a traditional 10-year office lease, since so much about the market could change quickly from rent prices to employer demand. But he cautioned he would add a clause to any contract specifying that if a flex office provider doesn't fulfill the contract, the landlord would take over the space. One glimpse into the future for the US comes how Asian companies, which are about a month or two ahead of the US in dealing with the virus, have transitioned. David Wong, the CEO of Hong Kong-based flex space booking platform, Booked, said that after a first wave of cancellations, he received a wave of interest from companies looking to flex office to cut real estate costs for business continuity planning. Companies directed their employees to various locations, minimizing risk to a team if a teammate got sick. But now that Singapore is again under lockdown, he's seen a second wave of demand falling. In China, meanwhile, some cities are open and starting to pick up while others are still quiet. It's definitely not going to be a V-shaped recovery, he said. I'm starting to wonder if it's a U-shape or a series of W's, 2 steps forward and then another cluster of infections and people draw back. The US is still at minimum weeks away from any timeline for white collar workers return to the office. In one clue about the outlook, Facebook canceled events until June 2021, Mark Zuckerberg said Thursday. In the midst of this uncertainty, here's how the flex office industry could evolve in the coming months. Short-term pinch. This is a day of reckoning. The worst economically is still yet to come as companies continue to cutting headcount and employees struggle to think about paying rent for offices they are not using in May and beyond. As CEO of co-working software company Proximity, which processes bookings, Josh Freed saw transaction volume drop 40% across the 600 co-working brands in the first week of April. That's a huge cliff. That just happened immediately, and I think we're only about halfway there. I think we're going to be somewhere in the 60, 70, 80% range before we start to find a floor. Okay, they're talking about the market dropping. Okay, a volume drop of 40%. They're saying 60, 70, 80% before we even hit the floor. Scott Harper, senior vice president with brokerage Colliers, said he's seen most flex space users ask for rent relief completely for 3 to 6 months. He said flex space square footage in San Francisco could drop by half in 6 months as demand falls away. Broadly, flexible office companies that were over-leveraged or had too much space could struggle. Private equity companies are already circling for distressed opportunities. Who has the cash reserves to emerge from this? There'll be fewer of them, but those that survive will be stronger, Harper said. Charlie Morris, the practice leader in flexible office solutions at Avison Young, said private equity firms and landlords still understand the importance of flexible space. We have not heard one doubt that viability of flex. We've seen them doubt the viability of deals to date in the partners, he said. As Business Insider detailed last year, the flexible office space was already trending towards a shakeout, with a high potential for operators to either merge or close as the market crowded with a slew of venture-backed companies expanding rapidly. This crisis may be the impetus for the shakeout. Bill Bennett, CEO of Chicago-based company Novo Co-working, said clients aren't willing to sign long-term contracts. He thinks the virus is accelerating both the growing acceptance of work from home and a demand trend he's spotted in recent months. Clients want office suites and private offices, not a traditional co-working seat in an open office. Bennett doesn't expect every company to survive, particularly when some were on shaky ground heading into the crisis. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. But the point here is this. We are going to see mass shakeout throughout the rest of the year. Okay? This is not going to recover very soon. Some people are saying, man, if you just open up the businesses, man, things just get back to normal. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen, man. We're not going back to the normal. So our company actually just opened up, just bought a whole lot of real estate. Probably back in maybe November and December. Come March, things change. Now nobody wants to go back into the office. What are you going to do with all that office space and all those shiny tables and Cisco, conferencing machines and stuff like that? What are you going to do with all that stuff now? You spent all that money, and now what are you going to do? Okay, these are the big, these are the whales. The whales are scratching their head saying, what are we going to do about this? This could trend downwards throughout the rest of the year, 80% before it stops. 80%. That's a lot. You're talking about over the majority, over 2/3. I don't know, man. Market recovery is not going to go well in the States. It's just not going to work. I know a lot of people are hopeful, saying, man, if you just open up some small businesses, man, things will just get back to normal. You would be very wrong about that. Okay. And this article is going to highlight this. This is from the Atlantic.com. The small business die-off is here. Many small businesses won't survive, and that will change the landscape of American commerce for years to come. Okay. Just got finished talking about this. Outside of Boston, a marketing company is struggling to figure out how to cover its bills. In Indiana, a dance studio is waiting on 3 emergency loan applications. In Baltimore, a deli is closed and desperate for help. The government is engaged in an unprecedented effort to save such companies as pandemic-related shutdowns stretch into the spring. But Washington's policies are too complicated, too small, and too slow for many firms. Across the United States, millions of small businesses are struggling and millions are failing. The great small business die-off is here, and it will change the landscape of American commerce, arguing slower growth and less innovation in the future. Small businesses went into this recession more fragile than their larger cousins. Before the crisis hit, half of them had less than 2 weeks worth of cash on hand. I mean, imagine that. Let me read that again. Before the crisis hit, half of them had less than 2 weeks of worth of cash on hand, making it impossible to cover rent, insurance, utilities, and payroll through any kind of sustained downturn. And the coronavirus downturn has indeed been shocking and sustained. Data from credit card processors suggests that roughly 30% of small businesses have shut down during the pandemic. Transaction volumes, a decent enough proxy for sales, show even bigger dips. Travel agencies are down 98%. Photography studios, 88%. Daycare centers, 75%. And advertising agencies, 60%. This deep freeze has posed a singular policy challenge. The government has never before been tasked with figuring out how to put a majority of the country's businesses on life support. We know how to support the financial system. It goes all the way back to Walter Bega, Satyam Khanna, of the Institute of Corporate Governance and Finance at NYU School of Law, told me, referring to the 19th century British thinker. There's a playbook to follow. What we don't know how to do or had no idea how to do is provide direct support to your local coffee shop at scale. Congress and the Trump administration came up with a $350 billion plan to provide forgivable loans to small businesses, now amplified by a second, sorry, I just lost my place. Amplified by a second tranche of $320 billion. The Small Business Administration's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Initiative provides small grants to small firms. Its Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, has small firms apply to retail banks and credit unions for loans up to $10 million, intended for expenses such as rent, insurance, utilities, and wages. The PPP loans become grants, provided that employers retrain their employees and spend 75% of their money on payroll. Since it went live in early April, this rescue effort has been the best with implementation problems. Banks were unclear on what information to collect and were overwhelmed with applications. Small businesses had difficulty figuring out where to put in their paperwork and what was available to them to begin with. Millions of massage therapists and cupcake makers and furniture companies were left adrift. A survey by the National Freedom of Independent Businesses showed that 4 in 5 applicants to the two emergency programs were unsure whether they would receive help when the first tranche of money ran out. Even successful applicants describe the process as a mess. Jackie Lavana owns a marketing firm in the Boston area. It's small but mighty, she told me. Me at my kitchen table, plus a team of subcontractors who help her create online advertising campaigns. I was having my best year ever, but before the coronavirus pandemic, she said. But her company has since taken a 25% hit to revenue, if not higher. Lavana watched the congressional rescue process closely and spent hours on text and email threads, talking with friends in the accounting and legal trades and the other small business owners. Everyone had questions. What version of the program did they need? Who would even let them apply? Did they qualify? Would they meet the requirements? It was a complete confusion, Lavana told me. The Village Bank in Wayland, Massachusetts, where Lavana's company has an account, initially said it could process her application, then told her it could not help her because her company did not have a commercial loan. Other financial institutions told her that she needed an account with them to apply or did not respond to her queries. She had finally managed to move forward with a small bank in Western Massachusetts before her bank got back to her and said it would, in fact, be able to help. The money would be enough to keep the lights on, she told me. One of the worst facets of the crisis, she feels, is that so many small businesses in her community are ailing together and so many have not received help. This is spiraling, she said. My ability to run my business allows my home daycare to get paid, and they are also seeking a disaster loan. I want to support the businesses that sustain me, but I feel like I need support to do that. The problems with the relief package run a far deeper than the flood rollout. For one, banks have been prioritizing applications from bigger clients, and some have even developed concierge treatment options for wealthy firms. Even after some congressional fixes, the small business plan in that way has helped big businesses over small businesses and establish small businesses over new small businesses. As approval of loans to brand name companies such as Shake Shack, Ruth Chris's, the Los Angeles Lakers, Potbelly, and others have demonstrated. Under public pressure, these companies have returned the funding. Much of the help has gone to the companies that needed the least among the firms with employee counts just under the SBA caps. Franchises of major chains and publicly traded firms, which are by definition able to raise money from investors. As structured by the federal government, it was inherently regressive, Khanna said. Indeed, loans of $1 million or more soaked up half of the initial $350 billion allocated by Congress. Wider, less populated states got more money per capita, with Vermont, North Dakota, and Minnesota overrepresented, and Nevada, Florida, and California underrepresented. Researchers found no evidence that money went to the places and industries hit hardest, as measured by business closures and declines in hours worked. The accommodation and food services sector accounted for 2 in 3 jobs lost, but received just 9% of federal aid dollars. The program is generating inequality in other ways too. One of the businesses that has applied but not yet received aid belongs to Jessica Yang's parents, who sell sandwiches and groceries at a deli in Baltimore. The shop has closed, unable to make a takeout and delivery model work with no notice. The deli had no online presence before the shutdown, and services such as DoorDash and Uber Eats charge such large commissions that it would never break even on an order, Yang told. The SBA was its only hope. I heard that we would hear back in 3 to 5 days, she said. My parents keep calling me and asking if I heard anything. Then we read in the news that the program reached its limit. I wonder if it has anything to do with it. Maybe there's just no money to go around. Yang said that her parents' ages and backgrounds complicated the application process. Her father is in his 60s, her mother is in her 50s and does not speak English fluently. For first-generation Koreans, how are they getting accurate information, Yang asked. I don't want people like my parents to miss out on opportunities because the process of applying is complicated. They are, and it is. Although the government is not collecting or releasing data on the racial makeup of SBA aid recipients, leaving think tanks and advocacy groups to fill in the gaps. The Center for Responsible Lending has estimated that 95% of Black-owned businesses, 91% of Latino-owned businesses, and 91% of businesses owned by Native Hawaiians or Pacific Islanders, and 75% of Asian-owned businesses have close to no chance of getting an emergency loan through a mainstream financial institution. Even with congressional tweaks, the program is amplifying existing racial disparities. Okay, keep that in mind. 95% of Black-owned businesses, 95%. I don't even need to read any further than this, because all these people who said, man, if you just open up barbershops, man, everything will be straight. Yeah, okay. You're all right. You believe that. 95% of Black businesses ain't getting no help from the federal government. You can forget about that. Okay? Most of these businesses will not come back. Okay? We got D.E. Raptor on the panel.
Hi, shalom, Mike.
Shalom, D.
Man, this article is dead on it. The only thing is, the problem with the system we have now is that it has grown its old age, and you're seeing that the interconnectivity between the banks, the big banks are already taken over the system, and they are deciding who is going to survive and who is not, using capitalism. And capitalism is not supposed to care about, it's to your own, your ability, to create what people want and then convince people to buy it. But this is not the way it's happening. It's completely different. It's like they're saying, you know what, we're gonna get ours and the hell with everybody else. And small businesses cannot survive under those conditions. They created the conditions that's so harsh that the only small businesses that want to stay open is if you own a plumbing company, for instance. You know that
Essential services.
individual, yeah. But otherwise, the other people, if you sell a dress, if you got a dress shop in the neighborhood, people, you hardly gonna survive
Mm-hmm.
unless you were doing everything. And you see, just before this thing start out, Amazon went to this program where you know what, you are individual now. You can only put your stuff on our thing. We're not going to put it in our stock room. You got to keep the stock and you got to sell it. So you can't get when you buy stuff just in time. When you put the order in and it comes from China, now you're not going to get it. So that little dress shop or a little hat shop or whatever the case might be that you put your order in and you get it because China is going to ship it to you in 2 days or whatever the case might be, direct
Yeah,
survivor going to be like the little shop in the neighborhood, like the bodega, that might survive, but the rest of the people, it's hit or miss.
yeah. The thing is, a lot of these people said, "Oh yeah, the economy will recover as soon as Trump lifts the veil. Okay, the president lifts the veil. All these people sitting at home. That's not going to recover anything. A lot of these businesses, I drove around locally last week. A lot of them are boarded up. They're not coming back.
Oh,
They're not coming back. They're all done. The article said most of these businesses, or some of these businesses, or most of these businesses had 2 weeks of savings. Okay, that means by Mother's Day, it's over for them. Now you're gonna go out and get your mother a gift, or are you gonna recover your business? Which one is it gonna be? Though Mama from the Train was a famous movie. And so you're gonna have to set your priorities. If you look around the manosphere, Black YouTube, a lot of super chats are not really going around like that. People are not super chatting like that anymore. People are starting to think twice about which channel they subscribe to, whether or not they should be a Patreon. Some of the cash apps are not working because those accounts are closed now. They didn't have enough money in there.
well, a lot of people living paycheck. You understand, like even people who are making big money. I would say when I say big money, I mean say you live in New York City or where you live, and you're making like 80,000. You're making a decent living.
Mm-hmm.
But when you lose that job, guess what happens? You know, when your boss say, look, we have to cut back. Like all the airlines, airline technician, airline,
Mm-hmm.
or first officer on the airplane, making 100,000. You know,
Yeah.
but when you get cut back, you're not making that money, man. You know what I'm saying? And you've been spending your money on bills all the time. You got a new car, new house. You know, you feel safe in your job because you probably got seniority. But guess what? Now 90% of the flights are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're scrambling trying to. You're probably taking money out of your 401k to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys, cash apps and all that, it's coming up short.
Yeah. Yeah. Credit cards, um, credit card agencies are saying, transactions are down 70%. People aren't moving around like that anymore. They're not buying a lot of things anymore. 70% is a lot.
But see, we have. I mean, when you talk about like the circumstances where people are saying, you know what, open small business and everything is going to work out fine, it's coming back and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are trying to be optimistic because they have to be. Otherwise, you look at yourself and say, "Damn, what am I going to do if I don't get a job?" You know, I got a family support, or I mean, got a girlfriend that depends on my money, and what am I going to do? I don't have money for rent. So this is a lot of this is being up is just optimism.
Mhm.
People who were in business got that wishing that what, man, I miss being in business. Right now I'm home sitting down doing nothing. My business is failing or failed. I have to do something,
Mhm.
and that's what's happening.
And Black people are hit the worst by this. 95% of Black businesses will not see a bailout. Most Black people have less than $400 of savings in their savings account, if not nothing at all. Okay. We talked about UBI, and people said, "Oh, that's just going to cause inflation. Um, that's a stupid idea. That would never work." What other choice do you have at this point? The economy is not going to recover in June. It's just not going to recover like that fast. Not Britain, Germany reopened its places, and people aren't going to restaurants and movie theaters. They're just not going. They don't want to go. People are afraid to go in there.
We have this idea that we can depend on the government. Like I always, every 4 years, I always say, you know what, man, they're trying to let God, who's going to be the God for the next 4 years, because they expect this guy to fix everything, every little problem that they have. They expect that president, whoever they voted for, or whoever in office, to fix everything, and he cannot. And in some cases, he will not. It might be deliberate or it might not be, but some cases it will not. And guess who is at the bottom of that will not list? You know what I'm saying? So you got Black people who are always wishing. We not creating anything, but we're wishing.
Well, just last week or the other day, Black people were standing out there waiting for those Jordans in the pandemic, mask on their face to put shoes on their feet.
Can you imagine these same people just got $1,200 in their pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and they were living paycheck to paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
but they had to have that pair of shoes. Well, it only costs this much. I got 12. Or if it's a family, and you got 4 or 5 kids, husband and wife, you're getting a few dollars more.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking down the road at this thing, is the president says he's gonna open up the economy so we can spend a little bit. No, no, no. If a lot of people didn't get that $1,200, this economy would be in worse shape than it is right now.
Yeah. Caribbean countries are not doing good either. I mean, you and I know this, but the people listening may not understand it. They function really heavily off of tourism. If no one's traveling there, you have a problem.
Yep. That not only the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got countries like Brazil and middle Central America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a. For instance, I was reading an article about Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
and they were saying like in January last year they were getting 132 billion pesos. Billion? Yeah, billion pesos from tourism.
Mm-hmm.
January this year, not now because it's probably just even worse. But January this year, that amount had dropped to 80 something billion.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
So
see,
that's a lot of money, bro.
yeah, but Brazil can, they export cattle and soy and things like that. Barbados and Jamaica don't really export that much
Right.
in that same capacity to recover from no trade, no tourism.
Yep. Barbados, from last thing I think, when things are going good, Barbados makes probably about what 80 billion a year from tourism,
Yeah.
and no flights are landing, no ships are landing. Guess what? That 80 billion just evaporated. It's not that it cut back a little bit in like some countries,
Mhm.
that 80 billion just evaporated, period.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we don't know what they have on deck for cash. I mean, the United States has the ability to print some money, but they prop up the Fed props up the market $1 trillion a day. But when these small businesses need to be bailed out, they're not getting anything.
Yep. See, but the US government, the one thing about US government is that their currency is a world currency.
Mm,
Other people use their currency.
right.
You understand? So if you borrowing from the US in US dollars and you don't have any money to pay back, it's different to when the US is borrowing from itself, borrowing from the world in US dollars.
Mhm.
Because they can print the money to pay you back. So in a way, the US will survive when all these other little places are not going to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we always talk about how Africa has to rise for them, for everybody else, diaspora to rise. And
Mhm.
now we are seeing it face to face.
Yeah. Let me read this couple paragraphs from this article. This is from theguardian.com. Has the time come for universal basic income? John Harris rightly points out that the need for universal basic income is increasingly compelling. A problem that has dogged UBI is that it is perceived as a state handout and raise questions of how it will be paid for. But there is a more morally just means of financing a basic income for all. Land is a gift of nature, the commons, which over the course of history has been appropriated into private ownership by the ruling minorities. Ownership of such a vital resource bestows on the rentier class owners enormous wealth, power, and social advantage to the disadvantage of the disposed majority. This unjust situation could be partly redressed through the restoring the principle of the law of the commons and imposing a rental charge on landlords similar to a land value tax, with the revenue used to finance a UBI. John Harris makes a strong case for a UBI. His rejection of two key concerns through though is perhaps too quick. He writes that the government's municipal response shows that radical spending plans are surely not the political taboo they once were, but a conservative party previously wedded to austerity might be looking to cut rather than expand public spending in the future. Second, he rightly says that a UBI can be easily combined with universal basic services, but trade-offs are likely to remain. For example, the government might place greater priority on health spending or ensuring everyone has access to the internet at home. John Harris's promotion of a UBI appears to have one key flaw, symptomatic of the radical politics that has spawned the concept. It is not universal. It is more properly called national basic income. A universal application of NBIs beyond where it was invented in rich countries cannot claim to be radical. NBIs would vary immensely across the world, thereby consolidating the unequal exchange embedded in trade. The promoters of NBIs under the guise of UBI will likely be drinking coffee and tea that is easily afforded because of the low wages paid to the workers in poorer countries. And of course, they can buy more toys for their children at Christmas, courtesy of poorly paid Chinese labor. So the UBI is a plan to help poor people in rich countries without regards to poor people in poor countries. Can radical ever be national? Regardless if it's radical or not, this is COVID. COVID recession says people are struggling. They need some form of assistance that's going to be continuous for the next couple of years. A UBI is necessary in these areas. The brand, I mean, UBI is to basic income that blockchain is to Bitcoin. It's just a branded term. It doesn't necessarily have to be accurate to the T of its acronym. You need a solution, and I think what's happening here is people are filibustering because they don't have a solution. All
I
right.
know for some reason, to me, this UBI thing should be installed right now. You know, instead of giving people the $1,200 one-time shot, you should be getting about once a month, at least for another 6 months. But you should have to, like, if you lost your job, you get it. If you're working at McDonald's and you know you're getting it because you're not going to be able to go to work. You know, things like that. They should start implementing it right now. Not the people. It shouldn't be a general thing. People who are working, even even if they have low wages, they should be getting it. But the guy who is making 8,000 a year shouldn't be getting it. That's my opinion. You know, if he's working, he shouldn't be getting it. If he loses his job, then he gets it.
All right, let me go to the next item on the docket from fastcompany.com. This will financially cripple us. How pandemic unemployment assistance falls short. When fitness trainer Lindsay Van Etten was forced to close down her Ohio gym in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, the promise of government relief was one small bright spot in an otherwise dire situation. Then one by one, the options fell through. She applied for a disaster relief loan with the Small Business Administration, but heard no response. The separate paycheck protection program also looked appealing, but not even her bank could successfully help her through the convoluted application process. Finally, there was one last hope: the Pandemic Unemployment System Program, or PUA, that stood for Pickup Artists, which extends jobless benefits to people who not otherwise qualify. That category of workers supposedly includes freelancers and the self-employed, people such as Van Etten. But even several weeks after businesses were forced to close, Ohio still hasn't fully updated its unemployment website to accommodate self-employed workers. And now, like so many other self-employed people who were forced out of work because of COVID-19, Van Etten is at the end of her rope. It's so unsettling and discouraging, she says. Where do businesses go from here? The various relief programs established by the federal government in the wake of a coronavirus crisis lay bare a searing inequality among American business owners and the self-employed. As larger, well-connected companies scooped up billions in small business loans, sole proprietors and self-employed were left jumping through endless hoops, ghosted by agencies such as SBA that were too overwhelmed to respond to the queries and turned away by lenders who were too busy helping larger clients. Although some of the biggest recipients, Ruth Chris's Steakhouse and Shake Shack, for instance, have said they will return their loans, many freelancers, self-employed workers, and sole proprietors say that loan money still isn't trickling down to them. In theory, the PUA program could have been a much needed stopgap for these workers, offering 39 weeks of unemployment benefits available through the end of the year, but implementing the program is left up to individual states, most of which are already stretched to the breaking point by more than 30 million Americans who have filed for traditional unemployment benefits in the last 2 months. A spokesperson for Ohio's Department of Job and Family Services said the state launched a pre-registration tool for PAU benefits that was used by more than 200,000 Ohioans. It expects a live application to be ready by the end of the week. That's more than a month after the U.S. Department of Labor published guidance for states on how to implement the program. But even in states where PUA applications are supposedly open, Many freelancers say they are being pushed to the back of the line or cast aside altogether. I believe all of the assistance is a sham, says Amy Doherty, a self-employed real estate worker. She says she was turned down for unemployment benefits in Florida with no explanation. Nobody's getting any assistance if I take care of my elderly mother, and this will financially cripple us. A spokesperson for Florida's Department of Economic Opportunity referred Fast Company to a fact sheet that lists several reasons why self-employed workers might be deemed ineligible. At the start of the pandemic, Florida's legacy unemployment website was widely criticized for being glitchy and outdated. It launched a new one in April, but that one is also drawing complaints. They have two websites now, neither seems to work, said Lyle Poliak, a self-employed worker who has been trying to get some kind of relief since March, when his small printing business in Clearwater was negatively impacted by COVID-19. According to a recent survey by the Freelancers Union, 84% of union members who had sought government relief have yet to receive a dime. Rafael Espinal, the union's president, says that freelancers are unequivocally slipping through the cracks. These programs have not worked in a timely manner for freelancers, he says. Whether it's the unemployment insurance or the paycheck protection program, either they haven't qualified because the states haven't been able to update their systems or deal with the high influx of applications, or with something like the loan program, small businesses were prioritized over the self-proprietor, which has put freelancers at a great disadvantage. In the case of the PUA, self-employed workers are only eligible for unemployment if their job is a direct result of COVID-19, but it's not always clear what that means. The definition leaves out self-employed workers and gig workers losing work because of the sharp general decline in economic activity. If they can't trace their unemployment to one of these reasons, noted a recent report from a Century Foundation. According to the spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Labor, states are supposed to provide applicants with an appealable written determination. If they are denied PUA, the applicant should appeal through the state if they feel their denial was an error. So what's happening here is actually, let me read these last couple of paragraphs. Espinal, who is a former member of the New York City Council, says the Freelancers Union has focused its attention on advocacy, meeting with state and federal officials to convince them to dedicate more resources to help freelancers navigate release options and weather the pandemic. He says the next federal stimulus package should include money set aside specifically for these types of workers. An estimated 57 million Americans worked as a freelancer or performed at least some freelance work last year, according to the latest data from the Freelancers Union and Upwork, with freelance income totaling about $1 trillion. But the patchwork implementation of the PUA has made it clear that these workers aren't a priority. Several lawmakers have championed expanding benefits to freelancers, but it makes little difference when the state level unemployment websites are only able to serve traditional employees. Man, a lot of YouTubers in the manosphere who claim to be content creators are also freelance workers. They're not going to get any bailout. Nobody's giving them a super chat. No one's giving them a cash app. Okay. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. Nobody's getting a dime out of this. Okay. You're sitting on the sideline and you're not doing anything. If you're not in essential business, you're screwed. Okay. this is from Bloomberg.com. The job numbers. Who's hiring in America and who's not? U.S. employers shed 20,500,000 jobs in April, and the nation's unemployment rate surged to 14.7, according to data released Friday by the Labor Department. Meanwhile, average hourly pay for workers rose 7.9% from a year earlier to $30.01 from $27.81. April marked the second straight month of record-breaking U.S. job losses amid widespread shutdowns due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, the true figures are even greater as officials gathered data early in the month. Millions more initial unemployment claims were filed in the second half of April. Below are the industries with the highest and lowest rates of employment growth for the most recent month. Additionally, monthly growth rates are shown for the prior year. The latest figures are highlighted. Wage data are shown when available. So what these charts are showing, let me read this from left to right. So other general merchandise stores, 93,000 jobs were gained. That's the gig economy. But personal and laundry services, 796,900 jobs were lost. Okay, the current wage is $16. Arts and entertainment recreation, 1,322,800 jobs lost. Current wage, $19. Okay. Clothing and clothing accessory stores, 600 jobs. Current wage is $16.37. Amusement, gambling, and recreation industries, 1 million jobs lost with a current wage of $16.03. Scenic and sightseeing transportation, 21,000 jobs lost. So these are all the numbers just for April. Okay, they're expecting more. Here's a chart that actually goes over the spending on the number of jobs versus the wages. Okay, there's a sweet spot for 2020 right here, around $23. $23 an hour. We got Super Triz and Nagona 11 on the panel.
What's going on, fellas? What's going on?
Chilling, man. Chilling.
What's up, Nagona? What's up, Super?
Hey, what's going on, DE? What's going on, Triz?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
What's going on, baby?
Chilling, man.
You know what I'm thinking, Mike?
Yes, sir.
When we were looking at all these economic numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and the same industries that you see in the red there were the ones that had already started to shed numbers, and this thing just caused the acceleration. All the ones in the blue are the ones that were increasing in numbers, but nobody was paying attention to it.
You're right. Yeah. And this COVID was an accelerator. It definitely was an accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what it was.
It was a nuclear bomb, like the article said. A nuclear bomb. Nobody's getting 95% of Black businesses in America will not be bailed out.
Damn.
That's what the article said. 95%.
95% of Black businesses. And you got to sit back and take a look at that. That's why I'm saying, brothers, we got it. This is not a wake-up call. You got to invest with your own banking systems. You got to roll with your own folks on this who got money who can help you. And that's your bank. You work with them. They can help you get through this. And That's what a lot of us are going to have to wake up and see, because a lot of us have small shops where, small loans, 5, 10 grand like that can help get you through a tight period, maybe 20 grand or something like that. Nothing huge. You have a smaller business, it's not like they got to lend you, 500,000 or $1 million. So, they can make those smaller loans and then, work you through, and then you can kind of get back up on your feet, kind of quickly once you get your client base is able to get back in. But a lot of these companies are not going to make it because of that. Damn. And
Most of these
government ain't looking for, government ain't going to bail you out. Nobody else is. We're on our own.
not because they don't have the money, they don't have the mechanisms in place to actually do so.
Yeah.
So most of these businesses only had 2 weeks of savings. Okay,
Yeah.
2 weeks. That means by Mother's Day, it's game over.
And look, I'm over here just looking. We got 24-hour gym up around here. We've got we had the Alamo movie theater up in Central. They just boarded up. We've got a lot of companies that are even white owned, that are just boarding up. They bottling up and rolling out. And so if that's happening with them, it's happening with us. So, and I think that we really have to establish kind of some more tighter business relationships for our community to survive. And because there are other companies out here that are getting money from their banks, and they're surviving, they're making it. And they're going to get through. And as these businesses open up, they're going to start getting people back in, and they'll be back they'll be back in the running again. But the name of the game is, can you handle a short period? And like you're saying, 2 weeks, a month, wherever you're finished, and that's the problem. That's what we're dealing with. Survive past that, and boy,
Nagon, you lived in New York for a while, and Mike lived in New England for a while.
Yes.
And who is going to survive this. The small businesses that are going to survive this are all run by who? I don't have to call any names.
I'll tell you, it starts with the letter J.
Okay, so
I already know.
they are going to survive. In Miami, guess who's going to survive? Hispanics are going to survive because they have people backing them. The congressman is going to make sure that if anything happens, at least rain is going to fall in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And they have their own banks, if you will, or they have their own institutions that back up their banks that have money.
Well, they're saying 91% of Hispanic businesses or Latino businesses may not survive this pandemic. So this is behind Black people as well. So problem, so they're talking about it's opening up the inequality, the ugly face of inequality. In small business. Most of these businesses don't have 2 weeks of savings. Mother's Day is coming up. Do you buy mama a gift, or do you save the rest of your business?
Well, one thing that you'll notice is that even with businesses from other demographics, a lot of them operate on credit. So a lot of their payroll, from the logistics standpoint, a lot of their supplies, a lot of this stuff is handled through, open lines of credits. For some of the other businesses that actually understands the credit system, some of other small businesses are trying to operate on cash, and so they're relying only on their cash reserves to make payroll. They're relying on their cash reserves to pay rent, or pay, lease the building that they're in. They're relying on their cash reserves to buy supplies. And so when something like this happens, they're out in the cold. Whereas some of the other businesses that have those open lines of credits are better able to weather the storm. And that goes into financial literacy. And that's something that's sorely lacking. In particular with some of our demographics, and for those that are financially literate, getting access to those lines of credits, that goes into discrimination by, some of these financial institutions when it regards Black businesses.
I'm going to say something now that I maybe just stop me if you guys think I'm going in the wrong direction.
Please don't get us flagged.
No, I'm going to say, look, all these mega churches in the black community that pull in billions of dollars every year that really are doing nothing right now. These black businesses who can't get a loan. The churches have funds. The church is not going into the community, all these black businesses, and say, look, we're going to stand you up and you just pay us back when when things start getting strong, you pay us back. These people are listening to what the news, and they are hearing the same thing that we're hearing, that you're being discriminated against.
DE Raptor.
They know these things for fact. Go ahead,
DE Raptor. I got to stop you right there, because you said when you get on your feet, we can pay you back. That, with all due respect, is asinine. These churches should be giving these businesses money and not ask for a dime back. Period. Like it's so ridiculous. This is the reason why, I love my parents to death. But I haven't been to church. The last time I went to church was with my parents. But I just can't sit in a church, even with my parents. Like the last time I went to see my parents, I didn't even go to church with them. But I can't sit in that church knowing the type of foolishness that's going on in there. It's like a repository for black capital. Yet nobody outside of that church freaking clergy can access that capital. They have the ability to purchase land. They have all kind of tax breaks and incentives. Like if I was if I was the head of the church, I'd be trying to buy land. Then I would be building on that land, and then I would be housing people in my congregation. Now, the rent that they pay, that's your tithes. You're gonna pay rent anyway. Why do I gotta double dip? You stay here, you pay rent at a discount, that's your tithe. You come to church on Sunday, I'm passing around the collection plate and giving out handouts.
Yeah.
But see, you got churches right now, knowing people don't have a job, knowing people are struggling right now, and they pass around a collection plate asking for people to give up their stimulus money.
They're not even, I mean, they're not even going into the church, but they're doing it over Zoom. So you imagine they're doing it on YouTube now. These are congregations on YouTube now, man, getting super chats. So crazy. It's crazy. But let me go to these pieces in the chat. Excalibur says AMC is toast. Yeah, this is very true. This is very true. A lot of that real estate that they're sitting on, they can't afford to not pay the rent. And people are not going to the movies like that. In some of these new markets that have, not new markets, but these places that have opened up last week, they're not going into the movie theater like that. Hard Fork Rich has been talking about VR and AR for a while now, and the necessity for building applications around that. I foresee that AMC may go to the VR headset. You won't go to the movies. You can sit in a lazy boy at home or on a couch, with a VR headset on your face.
But okay, so let me just so with the AMC thing, right? So AMC already, I'm trying to figure out, I'm not sure what company is, but there are some movie studios. I don't know if it's what studio is that? There's a certain movie studio.
Universal?
I don't know if it's Universal. But one of the big movie studios has now announced plans that they will simultaneously have a theatrical release and a home release. So that way they can capture lost revenue. Obviously that hurts the movie industry, because what incentive do people have to go to the theater when they can watch from the comfort of their home for a lot cheaper, right? And so now AMC had announced that they're going to sever ties with that particular movie studio, which means they'll no longer have access to that studio's movies, further hurting their bottom line. So they're already, in financial trouble because of this, the COVID lockdown. Now they're severing ties with this movie theater. How can they produce the capital? Because that's going to require additional capital transition from a home VR experience. You're going to have to, first of all, you have to get buy-in from customers to go to actually purchase a VR headset, unless AMC is planning on loaning or renting out headsets. I mean, from
no, Facebook is going to make a killing off of it. Facebook is going to make a killing off of it through Oculus.
Okay, Facebook, that's one thing, but we're talking about AMC.
Yeah, but AMC, what I'm saying is movie theaters are not going to matter anymore because they were just an avenue to go see the movie. But these companies, these studios that you're referring to, they're going to go straight to VR. They'll just bypass all of that. Now, AMC could get involved by being a intermediary in that regard, but the whole purpose of going straight to the VR cuts out the intermediary to begin with.
So, okay, so from that regard, well, I think a lot of people actually go to the movie theater in addition to see the content, but for the experience.
Yep.
To actually get out of the house, I guess, and just various things like that. How do you think that will be affected by the transition to a VR experience at home via Facebook or some other type of medium like that?
It takes time, mostly because I used to have a VR headset. I had a very old one, and it was really heavy on my face. So I think the adoption rate will be slow throughout the year, but I think it will pick up over time. But they're not going to lose money to this. So to answer, that's the best way I can really answer your question. I see it taking a few quarters to actually catch up because of production rates and stuff like that, because those things are not mass produced like that. But yeah, let me see. This person's in the chat. Yeah, insurance companies as well. Car dealerships. Toyota needs to move those Forerunners. Somebody has to buy them. They're gonna work out some kind of deals with them, man. I know my Volkswagen dealership, 35% off a new Volkswagen. Come take it. So, cascading effect. People are not driving around like they used to. I was on the highway the other day, dead out there. You can see, small animals running back and forth, trying to crisscross and play frog on the expressway. Cascading effect, man. Parking lots or parking garages are hurting. They're not getting any money. People aren't showing up there. This is a cascading of issues.
Now, let me ask you this, Mike. Now, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but it's funny because you brought up the cars. This is an interesting thing to think about, right? So when you talk about the average car, I believe the average car loses approximately 30% of its retail value when it leaves the lot.
No,
right?
No, that's 10%. 10%.
Okay, 10%. So 30% is actually overboard. So if you lose approximately 10%, say for instance you have a vehicle. Okay, that's what I meant. So after a year, a lot of vehicles use about 30% of their value. Yep. So you have a vehicle a year old, you have dealership lots offering 30% off. You see where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. Now you have a vehicle that's a year old. You're like, okay, well, I'll just take this back to the dude. So what I'm thinking to have to do is they're gonna have to devalue used cars now, because you're gonna have such a you have so many new cars that are available, right? At a steep discount. Plus, from a finance standpoint, you get a lower interest rate on a new car as opposed to a used car. So what incentive does somebody have to purchase a used car at that point?
Well, because people can't get credit, right? So access to credit is a big issue right now because agencies are really sitting on pins and needles whether or not they should loan money out to somebody who can't afford to pay it back. may potentially not be able to afford to pay it back. So that's where used cars come in. But to your point, you have an inflation of vehicles, too many vehicles being produced and not enough being sold. That's a big problem. Dealerships need to move those vehicles as soon as possible. So I don't know, man. I mean, am I tempted to go out there and get a new C7 Grand Sport that's still 0 miles on the dash? That's very tempting for 45 grand. Yeah, that's tempting, man. Do I need one? Nah. Where am I going? No place to drive it.
Mike, you could go outside, start it up. You remember when you were a little kid? Dad's car.
Nah, man. I'm I'm looking at this. I'm like, I might just get rid of my vehicles, just get a motorcycle, man. Just call it a day. Summer's coming up. That's a lot of social distancing. I don't need to be next to anybody. Ducatis are looking real nice right about now. Let me finish up this article from Bloomberg.com. Noel Robini sees a bad recovery, then inflation, then a depression. During the last crisis, the economist Nora Robini earned the nickname Dr. Doom for his ominous protagonitions about the economy and financial systems. While he prefers the moniker Dr. Realist, Robini is once again extremely negative. On this week's episode, he explains why he sees a poor recovery, then a bout of inflation, then ultimately a depression in the wake of the crisis. So we don't have a lot of time to listen to this. It's a really, really good podcast that he interviewed that he gave. He's very sharp. Rubini is very sharp. He does not miss anything when it comes to economics. He's been bang on the money for the last a couple of decades. So what I will say here is this. He thinks that this is going to go into a U. He thinks it's going to go into a U-based recovery. But he also sees an L first and then a U. I don't know how he gets to that point, but he's saying that there's going to be bad recovery because of poor fiscal responsibility by the Fed and the government itself. And then you're going to see inflation shoot up. And then you're going to see some downward depression by Q4. So you're going to see this get worse before it gets better. And we've been saying this for a while now, that there was going to be a recession. This COVID thing just accelerated like a bullet. So this is not going to go well. He's predicting that 90% of the small businesses may not recover. He's in New York. He's saying this. He said, there's no reason. He said, people are not going to go to restaurants, even if they open back up, because the social distancing that needs to take place in restaurants, who's going to sit there at what seat and what table?
You know what, Mike, I was just thinking about that. Well, I guess it was a couple of days ago when they was talking about some of the guidelines that was going on in Vegas. And so then I started thinking, okay, this is probably going to translate to other areas. You know, Vegas is trying to open up ASAP because their economy hinges on people actually being out and about. So one of the things I thought about was like restaurants, even some of the bigger restaurants such as Cheesecake Factory, right? A lot of these restaurants, in particular Cheesecake Factory, are in prime locations. So they're paying an enormous amount of money monthly in leases. And so then their actual profits hinge on the fact that you have so many people packed in. Like I know going to Cheesecake Factory, I have to always request a table where I'm not like shoulder to shoulder with somebody I don't even know. Because they'll put you at a table where you're literally touching shoulders with somebody that you're not even at the same table with. Like, because like they have like these tables that on one side they got chairs and on one side is like a long bench with these little tables, and then just put you right next to somebody. And so now with this whole social distancing thing, you know, you have to kind of spread people out. you can't have that same business model. And there's only, so what I'm thinking is, I'm wondering, like, some of these restaurants are probably going to, in order to make the same amount of money, they may have to actually have longer hours.
Well,
But then you look at, you think about longer hours, people are not coming to the restaurant late at night. So what do? Like, if you try to extend the hours, okay, we're instead of closing at 10, we'll stay up until 12. But people stop coming to the restaurant around 10.
No, because what's happening here is some of these places are still in lockdown mode, right? So although they may open up between 8 and 4, you still have a lot of places that are saying after 9 o'clock, get off the street. So those businesses usually close down before 9 o'clock anyways. They're not really going to stay open beyond that. So because your public transportation has all been compromised anyways. I saw somebody driving an Uber this morning, and they had like this big, hefty trash bag separating themselves between the passenger. I mean, this is just nuts, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's here in New York, it's even the stores like your CVS's and your Walgreens, they close at 8 o'clock. So any restaurants that are going to try to open up, they're saying maybe June 1st, or I don't know when these guys are really looking to do this, but we're hearing different things, even the 15th, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, this thing is definitely problematic. So so the curfews, you're not going to be able to get around them, and how are you really going to open up when you're still going to have a lot more sicknesses coming down? This is going to be tough. So the accelerator on businesses and everything else like that where this real recession is really going to hit, it's now. And man, this is not good. I'm caught up in a business where, it's all about putting people in stores and doing certain clubs and it was ridiculous money rolling in for a minute. And that shit is cut down to damn near zero. So I'm sitting there saying, "Fuck, that's a bitch."
So with everything closing early, Nagone, is that going to put Simps? Is that going to put Simps out of business too?
The Simps are hurting, motherfucker. The Simp is in it's a Simp recession as well.
Simp session.
It's a Simp recession as well. So their job is to get online and simp out all they can. But enough Simps, you see them around. Simping is hard, and I'm thinking at this stage right now, simping it might catch an uptick because these women are locked away in their cribs. They can't run out real like they want to and get around. So a real simp, a simp, he can push the envelope a little bit maybe and get a little something out of this. So this actually might be, I'm thinking this actually might be a little bit of this could be a potential uptick for a real simp. He might be able to get some attention, from some of these chicks out here if he keeps, giving them a lot of attention because they're starting to go stir crazy in the crib. I can tell you that. I can tell you that for a fact. They're gonna stir crazy. So it's a possibility, like I said, but I ain't worried about the Simps. We just we worry about what we do. But anyway.
Did you see that video on YouTube with the girl is advertising for what's called while her husband laying on deathbed for a step?
Yeah, of course. That's what, yeah. Keep one in the chamber. I'm like, you got to keep one in the chamber. I was like, and when the girl was like, and the woman was like, yo, check this out, man. Your husband comes out of this, he needs to divorce you. Even she thought the debauchery of this babe is, but anyway, it just shows you what the bottom line is out here. I think we just keep seeing it. They can't resist. That's their nature. But gentlemen, just keep your eyes open. That's all. For the thinking brothers and the non-supreme simps out here, just keep your eyes open. Because opportunities will abound as well. But this is gonna be a tough time. So we gotta keep our heads on straight.
No, I mean their time is limited as well. Their time is limited because if they're not working, there's only so much headroom that they have before they have to tap out themselves. I don't know, man. All of the all of the experts, all the SMEs who focus on the economists are basically saying you're not going to see a recovery until 2023. It's going to go on way. You're going to see a lot of U's and a lot of W's, but you're not going to see a complete uptick in market. It's going to be one of those things. They said as soon as they open up the market across the country, as soon as more cases start to come back in, those people are going to retract back into lockdown, and then you're not going to see any recovery.
Well, I mean, Mike, I bet a lot of the naysayers are wish they had listened to the Black Brain Trust over the past, 2 years or so, because, the tech industry, regardless of whether there's lockdown or there's not, is going to be booming. Because, they're going to be transitioning to a lot more artificial intelligence and automation in lieu of an actual manpower absence.
Mm-hmm.
And information security, data scientists, and architecture, systems architecture, all that type of stuff, is going to be needed even more.
Hey, super trick.
I mean,
oh, sorry.
Well,
go ahead.
just real quick, D Raptor, just real quick, and I'm gonna pass it to you because I think people had all this time during lockdown. Now, personally, I still had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I was still working the entire time. Actually, I was working a lot more. But for those that were displaced from their job, that could have been your opportunity to learn coding or learn something, learn a programming language, learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could have been your opportunity to transition into a new field as opposed to sticking your head in the sand. And you got to have that type of mentality where you're looking to actually influence and be a factor, as opposed to waiting around for somebody else to actually make the decision for you. But yet you got people running around calling themselves alpha males and all this nonsense. But it's like, okay, now it's time to be an alpha. Now it's time to be. This is the time to lead your pack.
All this stuff they were talking about, man, during the lockdown, they gonna submit, man. It's gonna come down to who can really provide for food, man. Who can really take down a deer, and drag it 5 miles back to their cabin. All these niggas is fucking clowns, man.
No, they was talking about they're gonna hunt aardvark and grill aardvark meat.
Yeah.
And wild zebras and all kind of nonsense. They don't go to the zoo, shoot a zebra and eat, and the chicks gonna come running because they got zebra meat on the low.
Yeah, put it in the back of their Mini Cooper. Come on, man. This is outrageous. Outrageous.
All these guys are simps. The simps is gonna be there trying to sugar daddy their game the best they can. They're gonna be in there online sipping it up. Mm-hmm. We know what's going down with all this. All that, fellas, all y'all knew that was just a crock of shit. Mm-hmm. And we see what's going on right now. So we know what's up. In mm-hmm. fact, brothers are going crazy because one of my friends, one of his friends was on a bus in the city, Manhattan, this past week. I just heard this tonight. He was riding on a bus and some crazy Negro got on the bus with a machete and hacked him and hit him.
Wow.
And he wasn't doing anything. Yeah. So they talking about hunting. These niggas are running around here. They're losing their minds. They're running around with machetes, cutting people, going to jail. I mean, you got crazy shit getting ready to go down. You got Negroes bugging. This is in Harlem. Dude was attacked with a machete. He attacked a couple people with a machete. They took this guy down. But this dude got 30 stitches in his arm. He got his nose cut. Thank God it just missed his eye. He could have lost his eye. Dudes walking around with machetes, man. Walking around with machetes, losing their fucking minds, bro.
Yeah.
There
were guys on here talking about, hunting squirrels and it tastes like chicken and stuff like that. these guys are highly finished, man. Because the lockdown, you're not going outside. Okay. I was out there during the Boston Marathon bombing, man, when they locked down the city. You had about 20 AP MRAPs out there, about 500 officers. I don't know where they got all these this human capital and human resources from. And they went from street to street, from block to block.
I remember that.
Anywhere. You're not going anywhere. When they say lockdown, lockdown is lockdown, man. all these tough guys, all these alpha males in the manosphere running around, you know, with Moroccan oil on their chest, looking crazy. You know, they live like that. You're not live like that, man. Who are you fooling?
Oh,
Hey, Mike, when they're in prison, at least they talk to each other to the reels. You know, they stick their head out and shout down the hallway.
Oh,
They're
man.
not even opening the windows now.
Yeah.
You know,
man, the only ones you see out here. Only ones you see out here.
Is that I think when we were talking about this stuff, we were actually. I was laughing when I remembered the other day. We were compared to what's happening now.
Yeah.
We were actually sugarcoating this stuff.
Wow.
Because we didn't think, we were just letting it say, oh yeah, it's going down here, it's going down here. But it just sunk. It's like somebody throwing a brick in the water. You know what I'm saying? It just one day everything is going fine, and the next week, you know, it's like today 6 million people lost their jobs. Oh, this week, you know, another 6 million lost their jobs. And it's like, holy mackerel.
This is the accelerator, man. This is the accelerator up in here, man.
Rubini is saying 90 million by December. 90 million.
90 million. 90 million. That's most of America.
If black people listen to Rubini, they'll commit suicide. I'm telling you. That guy tells you straight. And a lot of people on Wall Street hate him for that.
Hey, but you know what? But here in the Brain Trust and maybe one or two other channels that we've seen out here getting into it. You've been saying this. People said you're doomsayers, you're naysayers, doomsters. Why listen to doom and gloom? Okay.
That's why I said we are actually sugarcoating this stuff.
All right now.
Let me get to this last piece and then we'll open it up. This is from CNN.com. The price of reopening the economy, tens of thousands of American lives. President Donald Trump now knows the price of the haunting bargain required to reopen the country. Tens of thousands more lives in the pandemic that is getting worse, not better. Is one he now appears ready to pay. If not, explain to the American people at a moment of national trial that his administration has constantly underplayed. Depressing new death toll projections and infection data on Monday dashed the optimism stirred by more than half the country taking various steps to reopen an economy that is vital to Trump's re-election hopes and has shed more than 30 million jobs. Stay-at-home orders slowed the virus and flattened the curve in hotspots like New York and California, but they have so far failed to halt the broader advance, leaving the nation stuck on a grim plateau of about 30,000 new cases a day for nearly a month. Despite those projections, two administration officials told CNN's Caitlin Collins the latest numbers are not currently expected to affect the White House's plans for reopening the country. New evidence of the likely terrible future toll of COVID-19 came on a day when Trump stayed out of sight. His wild briefings that hurt his political prospects now paused, meaning he could not be questioned on the enthusiasm for state openings in the light of new evidence. But in an interview published in Tuesday's edition of the New York Post, Trump said Americans were ready to come out of isolation and get back to normal life. I think they are starting to feel good now. The country's opening again. We've saved millions of lives, I think, Trump said. You have to be careful, but you have to get back to work, he said. People want the country open. I guess we have 38 states that are either opening or are very close. A Washington Post and University of Maryland national poll released Tuesday found Americans widely opposed reopening most businesses, while 56% said they are comfortable going to the grocery store now. 67% said they would be comfortable visiting a retail store, and 78% said they'd be uncomfortable going to a sit-down restaurant, according to the poll. Trump's interview took place as the White House took new steps to limit testimony to the House from members of the president's coronavirus task force, prompting Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi to warn on CNN that it was afraid of the truth. And the new figures show rising numbers of infections and forecasts of a significantly higher death toll challenge the president's optimistic take. A new model from the University of Washington, previously used by the White House, suggests that 134,000 Americans could die by August. In a revised toll prompted by the likely impact of the state openings. The total was more than double the same organization's estimate last month. A draft internal report by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, obtained by New York Times, buckled the White House narrative that the worst of the pandemic is past and it's time to get going again. It found that the death toll will reach about 3,000 by June 1st, nearly double the current number. The data, combined with the figures showing the pandemic getting worse in many states, show there is no real scientific evidence for a scientific case for reopening businesses, bars, and restaurants. It underscored how governors, largely in the absence of a vast nationwide testing and tracing operation, the administration has failed to build. Are in many cases flying blind and reopening their states. Trump's top coronavirus task force advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said he did not know the assumptions behind the new models, but said they were probably not misleading in that easing restrictions would lead to spikes in infections. It's the balancing of something there that's a very difficult choice, Fauci said on CNN's Cuomo Prime Time, putting the bargain in the form of a question the American people must resolve. How many deaths and how much suffering are you willing to accept to get back to what you want to be? Some form of normality sooner rather than later, yes. I feel I have a moral obligation to give the kind of information that I'm giving. People are going to make their own decisions. So good luck to this guy. I don't know, man. I think, getting people tested is probably the best thing to do. I think once you get the working class people tested and you get that out of the way, it's the only way to really move forward. I don't see how you want to open up, but open up for what? The small amount of money that you're going to make from this is not going to be enough to sustain anything. Because people, you set up the PPP for a reason, and you set up the stimulus for a reason. Why reopen anyways at that point? Why not wait until they spent through their stimulus? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why write this? Why send the checks out if you want them to reopen right away? What's the point of that?
Man, you see what you're going to see what you're really looking at is like we saw 600-700 years ago, with respect to the feudal society, feudal Europe, if you will, feudal Europe, then moving into a capitalist Europe. This was after the Black Plague, after the Black Death came through and just tore 2/3 of Europe out the frame. It changed the business dynamic there, changed it. Okay, the feudal lords, the king, queen, vassals, and everybody else, a lot of them people got torn the fuck out the frame. It changed the game. So then it moves kind of now into almost a private sector piece with a smaller business guy, whatever, could practice this new economic kind of setup as opposed to the feudal plan they had, and then your capitalism kind of really started to kind of grow out of that. It changed it. All right. What we're looking at here is somewhat of the same type of thing that we saw back, in the 1400s. We're going to be looking at the same thing here now, where we're going to move from where a more capitalist society that we have in capitalist society that's really moved more towards feudalism. It's going to move to what I call a more socio-capitalism, which capitalism is going to show its failures and its weakness. It's going to begin to die away, and it's going to be merged very closely with more of a social or somewhat of a socialist construct. And that's where we're going. That's where we're actually headed. We actually see that our healthcare system and so forth is not working. Education system that we have, not really working. Too expensive, too blown. These things are not working. COVID is just totally exposing the game, totally exposing it, breaking it down, totally exposing as to what's happened. And if people come out of here with half a brain, they're gonna be changing how they think about how the society should actually run it and work. And that's why you see white boys even running up in the middle of Michigan State House with guns, and then threatened a black how do you say kind of a black constituent there, who ultimately a state senator who came back in the work today with an armed guard, a phalanx of brothers with guns, who walked her back in there and waited for her to come out with guns as well, and they didn't do shit. But this is the kind of thing we're looking at, and I think we're going to be looking at some fundamental changes to our system. That's what we're looking at, and I'm looking at what happened 600 years ago in feudal Europe, to have that change from a feudal system to a more capitalist one. We're going to look at this system that's moving from almost a capitalist feudal system with the 1%ers and so forth, moving as your super rich and your vassals and your princes and so forth from there. But they're running a social capitalist game for themselves. That's going to change. That's going to change, and I think government is going to have to come in and make some changes within that structure, where we're going to nationalize some things and do some stuff that's going to make this thing a little bit more equitable for everyone. I think that's coming down the pike. I don't think we're going to be able to avoid that, and I think these changes are afoot right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. A lot of people were laughing at UBI, said it was a joke. Shared economic model says socialism is not for America. The market would beg to differ. The market would beg to differ. Most of these businesses, 2 weeks of savings in the coffers. Boy, you should have 6 months of saving. No, that's not how business works, man. And at least not on a small business standpoint. You're not walking around with millions of bucks in your pocket. That doesn't really work like that. What kind of small business is walking around with that kind of money? They pay rent, they pay utilities. They got to pay their workers. 10% to 20% is the margin.
Well, I mean, and then like you got to think about, like, it may take a couple of years for business to actually be profitable enough to actually save 6 months worth of savings, right? And then once a business actually becomes profitable, if they start having talks about expansion, well, there goes the capital you save.
Mm-hmm.
From a personal finance standpoint, that's one thing to have, 6 months at least of income saved, income expenses. But
Mm-hmm.
from a business standpoint, that's just not always feasible.
Mm-hmm. Trace, did you cut out? You all right?
Oh, that was it.
Okay. We got Wesley on the panel.
How's it going, bros?
Good, bro. What's going on?
Not much. Just it's another great day. Just happy to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So just to add on, it's like what really surprised me is that like companies like Boeing, you'd think they have money in the bank, but they don't. Like all these Fortune 500, some of these Fortune 500 companies that like they're literally just like broke things.
Is it me or was he breaking up?
No, I was gonna say Disney as well. Disney is trying to borrow billions now. They were a juggernaut just recently, and now they're looking to borrow billions. Disney. So very interesting you say that, Wesley. You're right on the money.
Mm-hmm.
See, something about Disney, Lagone, is that you can close down operations. With an operation like Disney, you can close it down. But when you got to start it up, bro, it's like trying to push a locomotive down start a locomotive down the track.
It's trying to push a nuclear submarine by freaking hand, bro.
Yes.
So it's a big problem. They're starting to slow down, and here they are. So it's just not the little guys. The big boys are getting banged out as well. Overhead, very high burn rate at immense rates. We're seeing it. Like I said, we're gonna be looking at some changes, man. Because we're gonna see this capitalism. This has been failing for a while. This some bitches. When I say it's not high noon for capitalism as of yet, but it's definitely a quarter to 12. It's quarter to 12 on this some bitch. And that's what's going on. We're going to be looking at a slightly different system. The acceleration rate that this COVID is running this bitch into the ground on, it's kind of frightening. I know it's kind of frightening for some.
Yeah.
And you know.
But do you think the establishment would be willing to make those concessions towards having that socialistic society?
I think that I don't think they're gonna have it. I don't think they're gonna have a choice.
Yeah.
I think it's left now to where they're not gonna have much of a choice. You're gonna have a couple of guys who are gonna have some bread, but others are not. And you got some big giants that are getting ready to fall as well. So you gotta take a look at this, and they ain't gonna let no one or two guys control everything.
The thing is the whole it's like capitalism is part of the whole American mythology of American, the American dream, American exceptionalism. Like if you take away that, like,
and all that has been a myth. All that overall,
all that has been a myth. But like,
been a myth.
Once that illusion is unveiled, that's going to do some tremendous damage, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to reduce, and it's getting reduced right now. When you got mayonnaise men walking into the State House with guns, get this business going. Well, we're gonna shoot you, and we're gonna shoot some COVID up in here, talking crazy. That's letting people know where you're at in this game. That's letting you know the levels of desperation that's going on. And when you start looking at, middle America, where the heart of savagery and all that has been, where they've gone against you as Black Americans in some of the most Beelzebubian ways that you can think about, pure evil. They're starving. They're taking on the chin something fierce. They've looked up and said, I see it now. We were the buffer class for the super rich to hurt the niggas to keep these guys rich. And now we're starving. We are at the end. We're niggers. And we
I'm gonna say something.
It's so poetic. It's so poetic. It's so poetic justice.
And that's the horror of this realization.
Like,
and these cats know, and everybody knows. These guys start arming up, gunning up, and everything else like that is going to be a problem. They have to make some changes. That's where we are. Anyway, go ahead, guys.
No, the thing is, this is the only reason you don't see a new Occupy Wall Street or Main Street for that matter, is primarily because of the social distancing. If there wasn't no social distancing and this pandemic was still in place, you would see some outrage out there. I mean, we saw these guys show up at Michigan State Capitol House armed. The militia showed up.
Hey, Mike, if what Rubini says come to pass, even if instead of 90 million we get 70 or 60, that's still going to start up some things that these people don't want to deal with. And businesses, especially those big businesses that are accustomed to getting what they want from the government, you know, however however they can get it, because they're the one who set up this program coming out of the COVID thing and going back in. They set that program up. Uh, your friend, he called Tangerine Tiger.
Yeah.
He called all of them in and said, you know what? What this is here, we got a problem here. What should we do? And that's what they did. They said, look, you're gonna have to prop up Wall Street. You're gonna have to prop up the banks. You're gonna have to keep Wall Street from sinking. Otherwise, you know, this is what's gonna happen.
See, this is where Bernie Sanders really lost out, right? Bernie Sanders spent $100 million in New Hampshire campaigning.
I mean, just in New Hampshire?
Just in New Hampshire, $100 million.
What was this boy doing?
You could have spent that on bailing out small businesses. That would have been a game changer in his campaign had he still kept it up.
That would have got him
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of votes.
Yes.
A lot of votes. That might have put him in the White House because $100 million like that for a lot of small businesses, that could bail many, many, many businesses or throw them a lifeline to at least survive, maybe until the summer for a little while, and just barely keep them going. And when you say keep them going, just keep their overhead, so, on for a bit and moving around. Some businesses need small money. Some businesses will need, a couple $100 grand. But how you look at it, $100 million is a lot of money.
$50,000 per business in let's say the New England area, because he's a New Englander. He would have solidified his position nationally, but he would be control of the Democratic Party. Just that strategy alone, all that money he raised didn't have to go to it. It didn't have to go to a campaign. It could have went to something like this, and they would have said, "I want this guy in the White House. Get this guy out of here now. November, no need to go to November. Get this guy out of here right now."
Yeah, he could have set up a business fund where they could have all of a sudden just set up a fund and just started to underwrite some stuff on businesses, and that would have worked.
Yeah.
But a lot of but these guys, I mean, let's put it like this: Bloomberg walking around, Bloomberg could throw $1 billion in the situation.
He's a different mentality. He has a different mentality, right? He's the grubby old rich son of a bitch, out of New York, right? He doesn't have that sort of swagger. But Bernie's campaign, being a Democratic socialist, would have came in handy for something like this. He could have created let's say a $3 million, $2 million UBI pilot in, let's say, Rhode Island or something like that, or one of these other blue states in the local area. He could have divided all that money up and actually been a force to be reckoned with right now in May, had he planned it out in March.
Come to think of it, Bernie actually had a lot going for him, even if the media was trying to portray like smearing him. But in terms of like the online presence and basically the ground game, like his campaign staff, they were really going after him.
Mm-hmm.
But he did not channel it in the right way.
Right. New Jersey Prophet in the chat asked a question. He spent that $100 million after COVID or before? This was before COVID.
Before.
This was before it. This was when he was in New Hampshire campaigning hard. And what I'm saying here is you have to understand, New Hampshire only has a couple million people living in it. I think there's only like 2 million people or 1 million people at best living in New Hampshire.
No, New Hampshire. I don't think New Hampshire has 1 million people there. I'm not sure. I think
it's just about 1 million. I think it's just about that now. Takes like
They,
900.
they, they have a very small population because
Yeah.
I think Alaska has 500,000. So New Hampshire's somewhere around 6 maybe 700,000. They're somewhere around there. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
with a huge drug problem.
Well, yeah, they kind of fixed their own drug problem though through their their public health sector system. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying here is that the amount of money that these people spent in New Hampshire, walking around Bretton Woods, he could have easily solved this problem of solidifying his place in the campaign. You were going to spend the money anyways. You're not going to get it back now. You already spent it on fucking campaign, on TV ads and shit. Just stupid.
Yeah, but did Bernie? I don't think Bernie saw this thing coming the way it was going to come down.
SDY asked a question in the chat. It says, "Is New Hampshire really an important state? Very important for the Democrats."
Yeah, it is.
Very
It is. Yeah, that's a critical state for them. In fact, that sets it off.
Yeah.
New Hampshire's a jump off point. That's where the shit jumps off. So yeah, it's definitely critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that Wesley was going to say something. I think I cut him off.
Wesley, you there?
I think he's on mute. But yeah, but the point here is that he wants to open up the economy. It's not going to do much for you. Rubini is saying we're going to go through a lot of U's or even some W's at best, but you're not going to see a recovery until around late 2022, early 2023. So what you're seeing right now, we're just in the bottom of the first inning. We got 9 innings to go, man. Somebody's gonna have to come out of the dugout. You're gonna have to call the bullpen.
Yeah, you definitely you're gonna need some relief pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Some relief pitches.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Ain't nobody up in here going 9 innings.
Mm-hmm. Nah.
Not on the mound. Ain't gonna happen.
Nah, man.
I don't think, especially with this guy that they have in the White House, not too many people are listening to the message that say, you know what, just open up the economy is not going to work.
He's profoundly incompetent. I'm sorry, he's profound. I know there's some brothers out there that love this guy. This guy's profoundly incompetent. And what you got to do is study 1918. That's not hard to do, man. They got plenty of videos out here on him. Just take a look. Yesterday is today. I'm sorry to say that, but that's where we are, and we don't really even have even more significant treatments for what was going on than we had back then. Find out now that aspirin is a big, it can help you a lot. Be doing this. That's what they were treating it with back then. It's just, oh my God, it's the parallels are frightening. But anyway, if this is anything like that was, and that was even a bit more virulent, but this is pretty bad. If this is problematic, like we see, we're going to see round 2 on this, and it's going to be devastating. In fact, right up behind my, where I went to grad school, New York Medical College, you have the Westchester Health County Health Center there, and they got their workers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to make about 2,000 to 3,000 new pine boxes. They're making pine coffin boxes to put the dead in for the next wave. They already know the next wave is coming, and they're building boxes right now. So folks are already anticipating this. Okay, let's open it up. You guys do understand you're going to be sacrificed, right? Y'all do understand a lot of y'all sacrifices, don't you?
That's how the fuel system was about.
Yeah,
so many people.
That's what's going down.
Yeah.
So so that's so you got to prep for that. Will Americans stand for it? And if we do, how much of this we're going to stand for? You stand for your mother to die, grandma, maybe even some of your children.
Mhm.
Why do you want to go with this?
Well,
They're
America's got two problems with this thing. First, they have this idea that freedom at any cost, and secondly, is like they tell you you have to have a job, which is true. If you want to support your family, you have to have a job. But at what cost?
But
You
see,
know,
that's why. See, you're hitting that. You were banging that bang straight on the top of the head, nail right on the head. That's why we had to change the system. That's why the social safety nets and these things were built after the big after the depression, because we saw what happened after 1918 and all the issues that were there and the immense amount of suffering that went on. And then then we had the Great Depression that hit after that. They built social safety net, man. They had to change the game. Now those same guys who were against Roosevelt during that period, those same people were the ones who and then their adherents and their peoples, and then their descendants, have fought very hard to unravel a lot of that, and then they've been relatively successful. But now this is what you've got, and you're going back to where we were back in almost 1918, and we're going to be seeing some of the same issues.
Yeah. Well, you have a global supply problem here.
Supply chain, the supply chain is getting torn out, That's supply chain is fucked.
Right.
But anyway.
You have Americans who are not spending on the Chinese goods that are produced. China keeps mass producing these goods, but they're not being sold. And if they are sold, they're sold at a fraction of the cost, and so they're taking the loss. This is a big problem.
But this is even a bigger problem. You've got a lot of states, and you've got the federal government right now coming up short because you got to keep the mail system going and some of the other federal stuff we're having problems with that right now with what's happening. All right. You got federal taxes, but a lot of state taxes are supposed to move towards the federal and so forth, especially these red states and others that are sitting back here that are ain't got no dough. They're sitting here talking shit, but they got no dough. Mm-hmm. And you got states like New York and Massachusetts and others covering their asses. Just put them strain certainly on the government. So where are we going to go to get money to pay a lot of this stuff? Got to go to China to get now these treasury bonds, debt instruments that
they just took 800 billion from China.
Exactly. So we're going there now, but yet we're still talking about, we're going to have a global war with them. We're going to be getting into war with them. Where can you can't be on both sides. It's unsustainable. So that's where these monkeys are fucking up. And they just, they're not realistic about the game that they're in. They're not realistic. That's what I'm saying about these guys here. They just don't say. Now, guys like us, we sit here, we look at this, we understand how a lot of this works. A lot of people don't see that. Yeah. You can't play both sides. You can't take all that money from China and then start talking the shit that you're talking. All right, this idiot and then these other people that he's got up in there. Big problem. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Something's got to give, man. Something's going to give heaven. Go ahead.
No, what I was saying was that all those goods that are manufactured for the United States and China have to be sold. And the problem is people here are not going to buy because department stores are going out of business. Amazon's not going to really be shipping all that fast anymore because of the lack of workers. There's a cascading effect that is happening. I don't think most people really understand how significant this is. United States is China's #1 partner in terms of economic trade. What are you going to do with all those three-pronged devices that are made, these flat screen TVs, these cheap Chinese goods that people like to buy so much at these dollar stores and whatnot. You got ships sitting out there in the Pacific that are not docking because of fear of COVID on packaged on these goods. No one wants to touch it. No one wants to let those ships come in. What are they going to do? Pretty soon, you're going to start to see electronic goods, the prices go up because there was a looming trade war that was happening in 2019. So a lot of these department stores, Walmart and whatnot, bought up a lot of goods, but then you have people who can't afford to buy them right now.
We see, and that was the idiocy of Trump coming in. China, they're our problem. China. I mean, with all this dumb shit, this is what we got. This is what we got going on right now. You know, how are we going to work our way out of this? Now, one thing I did see, I saw. I drove by. There was a dollar store, you know, near my house, and the place was dollar store was still open. Man, it was pretty funny. Dollar store was open. I guess it's essentials. They got food and stuff in there, and people were in there. People were in the dollar stores heavy. So, you know, China can move its goods here once, you know, we kind of open up, you know, and we're going to have to take in their goods because we're borrowing a lot of money from them. So there's going to be a trade factor. You take care of our debt, we'll buy your goods just like we did before it jumps out of their
The security aspect behind it, Nagone, is that those packages have to be tested for COVID.
And I just listen to somebody say they're going to irradiate some of this stuff and kill the viruses that may come through. How are they going to do that?
They may be able to do that. They may be able to do that.
That's what they were talking about, irradiating some of this, and it might, you know, with the light radiation or whatever, and this will kill a lot of the virus coming through. All right, but regardless, we're putting ourselves in a tough spot because we just did 800 bill. We're borrowing from China right now, and you know, it's a lot of paper, you know, and
let's go to EG. So you got his hand raised.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
All right.
I just wanted to say something. In I guess my little time that I've been around, I've noticed some things about. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I've noticed some things about mayonnaise people, and I saw something the other day on the news that I realized these people are just cowardly. It's just that throughout American society, Black people have always been under the gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen when they're confronted with actually speaking up, telling the truth, even though it might not be popular, they don't do that. So the other day, Trump had some nurses in the Oval Office, and I think her name is Sophia Thomas. She is the president of the American Association for Nurse Practitioners. Mm-hmm. And so then she was saying how she had made the comment that she has been using her PPE, her personal protective equipment, for weeks on end now. And she's used the same mask over and over, which you're not supposed to. So she made the comment that it's sporadic, and Trump immediately interjected and said, "Sporadic for you, but they have plentiful in other areas." And you know, everybody knew that was bullshit comment. That was such a nonsense comment. That no, it's a shortage of PPE everywhere. But instead of, I guess, standing on her square and saying, I mean, because it's not like this is not China. They're not going to throw you in jail for telling the truth. You have freedom of speech here. She said, "Oh, no, I agree with you." And then he went on this diatribe about how, you know, how they've replenished PPE and how the previous administration left them deplete. And I'm like, what? Everybody's thinking like, what the fuck does the Obama administration have to do with this? But I saw how she cowered in her opportunity to tell the truth. And when the moment the spotlight was on her, she, you know, it's not like they're gonna take her job. She's not gonna lose her job. Nobody's gonna do anything to her, you know. But she cowered. I'm not saying you argue with the president, but she didn't stand on her because she said, "No, I agree with you." And I just thought about that, and I see that all the time with a lot of these people. Like they're marching up in the state houses, doing all that because they think that the wind is at their back. But anytime, I guess, you isolate one of them, or anytime the system turns against them, I see how they fold, and it makes me think of how, you know, Black people. A lot of times we do the same thing, but no, sometimes we have the gall to speak up and in the face of adversity, in the face of when when everything's on the line. We will speak up and say what needs to be said. I mean, I don't know. I was just appalled at what she did. But go ahead. I just wanted to.
That's a good point. And here's another thing too. You start talking about the PPE. Here we're talking about shortages and so forth. We're gonna have to buy a lot of PPE from China because China's got a lot of that. So we're buying a lot of that from them as well. And we're talking a lot of crap about that whole situation. So, but nobody wants to talk the truth on that either. But we got to buy a lot of PPE from them. That because they have a lot there because they've been through this. So we're buying a lot of that from them.
But that might have been her moment to get something done. To say no, it is sporadic. We need these things. With all due respect, President Trump, this is what we need. But she just allowed him to blow hot air in front of everybody, and that, and I don't know. I mean, it's almost like he's a petulant child that everybody ignores. But no, something could have been done. I mean, she had the opportunity to say something, and she did it.
Yeah.
And who knows? And then, and then he might continue doing what he's doing, thinking that okay, well, everybody's just agreeing with me. So I don't know, but I think that was appalling what happened.
Now you're seeing why you see 15 cops show up when one black man is being what they call uppity. If you ask a cop a question, you know what? You got to call in for backup. Because that fear, there's a fear in them about, everything.
No, but they're just cowardly. I see that they can do all these things when they think they have, this is like I said, when they think the law's on their side or they think society's on their side or the general consensus. But I mean, this is, I mean, forget about black people in this. This could save. I mean, it's a lot of people, a lot of quote unquote Americans are affected by this. And she couldn't. I mean, she's a nurse. She's a nurse. No one's gonna take her credentials away from her. She might
just take anything. It's not about taking anything away from her, but also hurting her future prospects.
What future prospects?
Anything can happen. If you look at what happened to Mazi Hashemi last year, she was arrested and held for 16 days under the NDAA. Okay, they didn't have any charges against her. They just held her. And
who is that?
Mazi Hashemi. She's a journalist. So what I'm saying here is that they didn't just arrest her. They arrested the whole family, sons and granddaughters and everything else. They rounded up the whole family.
Based on what?
Nothing.
No, I'm refresh my memory. What was this about?
Mazi Hashemi is a journalist from Press TV. Okay, she's from Louisiana, so she's a U.S. citizen that works in Iran. The point that I'm making, the FBI arrested her and detained her. The government can do whatever they want now due to the NDAA of 2012 and the Patriot Act. So maybe this person doesn't want to look like, look like they're going against the narrative. When you're in positions like that, man, you got to go along to get along sometimes. It's just not, it's not always in the best interest to try to stand up to somebody like that. It's just not.
Really?
You got to put yourself in those shoes, man. It sounds good behind a keyboard, but you.
No, I mean, no. I mean, I've been in that. I mean, I've never been on that spotlight, but no, I think all of us as black men black people can say we've been in uncomfortable positions where we've had to say something. I mean, we've all been fired. I know I've been, but I mean, it doesn't. I mean, the way I see it's going to happen anyway. So you might as well speak the truth and say it.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh no, I was just, I was just, kind of agreeing with the Jesus that these people, they do bitch up and and they are worried about certain kind of things. But I do think that there's a time when you got to step up and say some things. I do think so. I think it's one of these times, man. You got to step up and say shit. And sometimes you can take a risk. And it may not be as lethal as one might think, but then again, it might not. Timing is big in everything, so it's we do have to take a look at it, look at that. But I do see where black people have been in these positions and have stepped up and said quite a bit. So I agree with him on that.
I think you're talking about that journalist, that black journalist that used to be on the McNeil Lehrer NewsHour.
I don't know about that. I only know her from Press TV. So you're right. She was producing a documentary, and the FBI detained her when she came to the United States, and they detained her whole family. Okay, so when they want to do something, they will do something to you. They don't necessarily have to have a justification. They kept her in jail for 16 days with no justification. So things
hey, sometimes that's the price of doing business, but I mean, it has to be truth before peace. You can't. I mean, what's the whole point of? I don't know. I don't think that was saying what. I mean, you didn't even have to argue with the guy. Just kept quiet. Just say what you had and kept quiet. But she bitched, like Nicole said, she bitched up. But I get your point.
Yeah, she definitely bitched.
Yeah, you pick and choose your battles, man. It's just one of those things. That's how I see it. I think a couple people in the chat see it that way as well. SY asked the question, Mike TVT, have you gone into details about China's economy on the previous episode? We didn't really go into too many details on China's recovery. We do know that China is going to go into a bubble at some point between now and 2021. It probably might come sooner because of this whole COVID recession. So, like I said before, they have a lot of goods that they produce and they need to ship and sell to the United States, and those things are not being the people. The U.S. government is not actually taking on any of these goods at the moment, from my understanding. And number two, people are not going out and buying things anymore. They're not going out and buying 75-inch TVs at the moment. They're not going to go out there and buy housing. They're just not going to do that. They're not buying cars. Car market is down 80% over the last 45 days. The major staples that keep the economy going, Americans are not going to be able to partake in it. They just can't do it. They can't justify it. You got people back on their rent, people not paying student loans, a car, repo man driving around the block 2 or 3 times looking for a car that needs to be repoed. Landlords looking for rent that people are back on. They're back 1 and 2 months on rent. You can go the first couple of months on not paying because you have your security deposit down there. Landlord could tap into that, but what happens after 2 months?
Well, right here, my cousin, he owns property too. He's got he and his dad and them, they got 158 units. They got 158 units, and he said about a third of them are behind right now. And New York City has a moratorium on it. They ain't kicking nobody out. You're not going to court. They ain't kicking nobody out.
Yep.
Ain't nobody going anywhere. So everyone's trying to shift up and work deals and trying to hold money. This is taking a bite out of everyone.
Yeah.
This is taking a huge bite. And what the government's going to have to do, unfortunately, is they're going to have to come up with potentially another stimulus game. This is a rough game here, man. That's why they're trying to open up real fast. But boy, we are in for some rough road. Anyway,
your key staples, that are used to build up homes and stuff like that, all your furnishings and stuff like that. People are not buying that. Who's going down to Bed Bath and Beyond?
They ain't going.
Yeah, they're not going down to Home Depot and getting that new water boiler. Okay, they're not going down there getting washing machines and dryers and refrigerators. It's not the time to do so.
Hey, Mike, I got a question. Speaking of buying, right? Is technically under the law, especially in times like this, is buying a lot of one good or certain goods, is hoarding illegal?
In some states, it is. If they find out that you're buying up toilet paper and stash and stuff like that now, yeah, you could find yourself in a bit of illegal buying.
But isn't that capitalism at its essence?
Not if there's laws on the books that says that you're not supposed to be, one per household or whatever it is. They got it now on meat. Now you can only buy one pack of meat.
Well, this I had saw a story about two brothers in Tennessee that bought a bunch of hand sanitizers, disinfectants or whatever, and they had storage lockers full of that stuff.
Mhm.
And the Tennessee was a state prosecutor in agreement to drop charges against them. They agreed to donate everything to, I guess, they donated to the state of Tennessee or some organization.
Mhm.
And I'm scratching my head, but that organization is going to turn around and sell that stuff.
No, they're not. They're gonna give it away.
They'll give it away.
Yeah, they're gonna give it away. That's the whole purpose of it.
Okay. But don't large organizations do that too?
Do
Buy
what?
a bunch of stuff and then hold it to hold to sell later?
No. Well, how are you going to sell it if it's not you're not authorized to sell it? You're not an authorized reseller.
So you have to be.
So yeah, for some products, yeah. If you get caught selling a product that was sold to a major retail chain or something like that, and you get caught reselling it, you find yourself in the legal line.
Oh.
Yeah, you look at there's some fine print on there that says can only be sold for CVS, can only be sold for Stop and Shop, can only be sold for Walmart or something like that.
The way he said, "Oh," it sounds like he been doing some shit.
Yeah.
No, not me. No. Because I'm just scratching my head. But that's capitalism at its finest. You see a good, you buy it for a certain amount, and then you sell it for a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
Other normal circumstances, these guys would have been considered a genius.
Well,
I mean, when the market is low, you buy, and then you turn around and you sell.
not during this type of pandemic. If they were trying to sell sneakers, that would be one thing. But
a lot of organizations take advantage of crises. A lot of places get rich during crises, during times of turmoil. I mean, that's capitalism 101.
Yeah. But to answer SDY's question, we haven't really gone into detail about China's economic woes.
Sam, did you want this?
Go ahead. I think Wesley is ordering some Wendy's or something. D Raptors.
Oh, my bad.
DE Raptors. He must be having his porridge again. No, but no, China's economy, man, is very fragile because it's so dependent upon U.S. Exportation to the U.S. and other Western states, but more importantly, the U.S. They have to keep producing these goods to keep their economy going. But your retails are failing. I don't know how long Best Buy can hold out for. If you don't have people coming into your store, you don't have that foot traffic, and you're not selling goods as much as you used to, I don't know if you're going to turn profit this month. I don't know if you're going to turn profit over the next couple of quarters.
Well, they do sell online, so they're looking for online sales. So people are, buying online. They're starting to do more.
But if they're online, they're competing with better players, more established players.
Yeah,
like
that's
Amazon,
what I'm saying.
eBay.
Yeah. They're not.
At that point, they wouldn't even be competitive if it's online.
Not considering the fact that they have a brick and mortar space, right? That the rent has to be paid on those stores, regardless if they sell online. They have to be paid.
Well, some of these retailers were smart. They have disaster clauses in their leases.
Mm-hmm.
And those disaster clauses, I've looked into that, and those disaster clauses, depending on how one could consider a disaster, this COVID could be considered a disaster, and then they would have a break on the period of paying those leases until the disaster was relieved. So that they have those clauses in some of these, not all of these commercial property leases, but they have some of them. That's why commercial property is a great investment, but it can be very risky on other occasions. Not very risky, but disasters like this hit you, and then a store like that can stay around, and the real estate, company, the holding company, could be taking a bath for a while because they're not getting any income on that property.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we just built our movie theater here. I think maybe about 12 months ago. Just built it. New infrastructure, everything, all rolled out. Grand opening, grand closing, man. Ain't nobody going to the movies anymore.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, at Alamo Draft House over here, where you could get something to eat in there, nice burger, drink, everything else like that. Get an alcoholic drink as well. Food and all that. It's a great place, man. Great place to hang out.
Yeah, NASCAR.
Bad Boy is boarded up now. Boarded up only a couple of, 2 months out. People want to go in there. That's some bitch finish.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, look at this. 24-hour gym, right about a mile from my house. Decent gym in case you want to go to, if you regular gym, if you go into it closes at 11 or whatever, these guys are open all night long. Boom, finish. Call them bankruptcy now. I'm sitting there saying, wow, look at all these businesses just getting racked right now.
Yeah.
What about all those businesses that, especially the big ones, that depend on like 2 or 3 holidays out of the year that going to get ripped apart come December?
Yeah. They're going to feel it. Like I said, NASCAR, they're going to be hurting. All your because all of the racing events have been canceled throughout the year. We just saw Facebook canceled all events until June of 2021. What does that tell you?
Yo, man, I'm laughing at New Jersey Profits. I know they sighed about that movie. That hell yeah, we sighed. So this is bad. NASCAR taking it on the chin. I mean, just everybody getting hit. I mean, everyone's getting hit. I mean, this is, oh man, boy, this is tough.
Yeah. You taking the
my state?
Go ahead.
My state university is now considering having 2021 classes all online. No one on campus.
Yeah. What are they going to do with all that real estate that they acquired? What a backfire this has been.
Like, it's such an interesting place we are in and where we're going. It's like, it's truly a black swan event.
Nigga swan. That's what that is.
It's a nigga swan. It's a nigga swan.
It's you just look at the cascading effect of all of these major events and these major industries that are just going to suffer from this. And then you factor the trickle down effect of how even the bodegas are feeling it, man. No one's really coming in there like that. They don't really need to come up inside the bodega unless they just have to. I mean, other than that, they just go to Instacart or some other service and they just order their food from there. They don't gotta do that anymore. Walking down the street to a bodega and getting their stuff. So they're feeling it too. Barbershops torn out the frame. You're not
torn out the frame.
Yeah, you're not coming back from that. Like I said,
it's funny. My barber called me up, and he's like, because I'm right now. I'm saying my right now I'm kind of wearing kind of a stylish fro, but anyway, my barber. Tyrone, he's like, he's like, yeah, man, God, come on through, man, come on down. He's a West Indian dude, he's real cool. I'm like, nah, man, I'm gonna pass on the COVID cut, fam, but when you ready to go, when the thing opens up, I'll come rolling through. He's laughing, no, man, I got the mask and everything, man. I'm like, no, man, I'm not coming down there, man, to catch the COVID cut right now, fam. So Yeah, you got barbers trying to call people up and trying to get them to roll through. Now, I don't think they're going to like I know, in the city, if you have a barbershop open or anything else like that, they catch you, you're getting lit up. So he's trying to get people to literally come by his crib and catch a COVID cut over there. And I'm like, this is where a lot of cats at right now, man. It's desperation.
Yeah, man. To be honest, like, do you like my workplace transition to work from home for everybody? And I've been doing this shit for like 4 or 5 weeks now. It's like, do I need a haircut?
Well,
like,
it depends. It depends if you turn on that camera.
Like,
you turn on that webcam.
Oh, I never turn on the webcam. Never.
Well, then you won't know.
Well, you know what? I keep my hair cut even though I'm not going anywhere. And when I'm at work, I'm wearing a mask and I got like a bonnet on my head and stuff like that. So like really and truly, I can get by without a haircut. But I mean, I just cut my own hair today. Like I've been cut my own hair even before this COVID thing. So when the COVID struck, I was ready. But like, there's like a barber that I know, and I was telling him, because I had seen like some of these guys do what's called these stealth vans, where they have like a van, they convert it into like a almost like a RV type deal where they have a bed in there and the TV and like they save on rent money. So I was like, man, like you already got your clientele. While you cutting at this barbershop, you should just get like a van and like convert it into like a barbershop, like have your own personal barbershop. So like, even if you lose some of your customer base, the amount of money you save on rent would be astronomical. You know what he did? He got a Q van for like $3,000. He converted it into a barbershop. Do you know this motherfucker been eating the entire dime during COVID? Because he has a box van. He just pulls up to the house. They come out, they come out the house, step into the van, and there's only one customer in there per cut.
Yeah, social distancing.
So he been eating like a fat cat. He been charging like, actually, I think he been charging like $80 to pull up to your house and cut your hair. And so he been eating.
Hey, that's creativity, man. You gotta have some creativity out here right now, man.
Yeah, people been doing that for a while now.
I do know that, because they cut dogs. They do the same thing with dogs and do the same. If your dog needs whatever, they got the people who come by, and can, trim your dog up and wash them in the van as well. They got all that kind of stuff. I know that, but that's what you're gonna have to. That's kind of games you're gonna have to play to kind of make it out here. Like my man wanted me to come roll over his crib, but if he had a van, something like that, and if I had all my, I would get geared up and stuff, and I would probably do that if he had a van. I probably would. I would go for it.
Yeah, I
cut my own hair. I got myself up. I don't want to be putting no gaps. I got to have these different combs, but it's just don't look the way my man does it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I saw some barbers charging $100, man, a cut. So
a C-note for a haircut?
Yeah, man. It's getting to that point, man.
You can keep that.
$100 for a cut.
Nah, bro. Nah, ain't that.
Get to that point, man. I'll have to lock my joint up, man. Pull a complex, man, and just let my shit get nappy, man.
But you know what, Mike? Let me tell you. Like, you got time. It's not that hard to cut your own hair. Like, I do it, and I tell you what. Like, when people see my haircut, they ask me who my barber is.
Using Wall or you using Andes?
No. I have a Wall. I have an Andes. I have I got another one too. I got like 3 different brands. Matter of fact, I'm about to actually get the actual commercial clippers, because that's how much I cut my own hair. So I'm about to get commercial clippers too, with the actual guards that you have to take off.
Yep.
But anyways though, like the point is that it's actually pretty easy. Me, I can cut against the grain too. But like when you starting off, you keep it simple. You just go with the grain. You do a simple edge up, and that's that. Like, you know, I guess the edge up will probably be the hardest part for some people if they haven't been doing it. But like, I do like my mustache. Like when I have my beard, I will do my beard. Like, and I know how to use a straight razor now too. So, like, it just takes some time, but you'll be surprised at how much money you saved. Because, you know, you go to a barber shop, that's like $40 a month. You can, you know, $20 every 2 weeks. That's $40 a month.
It's about to be $100 a cut, man. I saw it.
Hey Trish, do you use the Beijing to fill in all the spots that you
No, I don't use any of that Beijing shit. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, I think I guess it's different though, because
so what if
like,
you mess up and got a plug? What happens?
I haven't got a plug since I first started cutting my own hair.
How you get the waves?
Huh?
How you get the waves?
I know how you get them waters.
Okay, so the trick to the waves is I'm probably giving y'all too much game.
I'm getting seasick right now just hearing you talk about it.
The trick.
Go ahead.
No, I think Trish is having some difficulty there.
He don't want to get the game. That's why.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, so there's two products that I use. One of the products that I use Eco Styling Gel. So like, I don't even use grease. I don't use grease, period. Like, I would recommend that you use gel, Eco Styling Gel, and then the key is that you want to actually put the product in your hair right off the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And then just tie the do-rag on, and then take the do-rag off. Don't walk around with the do-rag on your head all day long.
You get them lines around your head looking crazy.
Wait. So you don't walk around with a tin can of Sporting Waves like every brother does?
No, I don't use Sporting Waves, period. I use gel.
Oh man, Triz don't let it out the bag. He's in his bag again.
Hey, and listen. Ain't nobody spitting like me. I'm gonna tell you that right
now. Hey, dudes be going surfing on the top of your head.
Nah, ain't no dudes going surfing on my head, but it's called females do that, dude.
That's that Aldo. That's that Aldo, man. I don't know, man.
Triz, you my dude, fam.
You know, yeah, you got a Jesus, you on the mic talking zesty today, man. What's going on, bro? I mean, I know we on lockdown, but never.
Why boys be seeing you talk about Cowabunga?
Man. Now I'm surprised that Trish must have been doing that for years, man, because ain't no way you're gonna get that lined up now, man. Cats running around with all types of patches on their head looking crazy.
Listen,
I could have swore I saw Triz on a box of Duke texturizer. It looked just like Triz. I could have sworn that was him.
You know what though? I give myself an actual taper. Mm-hmm. Like, I can actually do my own taper, like blend it, and really and truly, like, it's not that hard. Mm-hmm. It's really not the only issue with cut your hair is that it takes a long time. Like, it literally takes me an hour to cut my own hair. It takes me an hour.
That's normal though, right? A barber spends about 45 minutes on a person's head.
Because he's talking half of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but like a barber that really focused could probably cut your hair like in 20 minutes. But like for me, like even when I'm focused, and it takes me like an hour to cut my hair to get it right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of work. I may have to trim myself up. I think I can do it, but I got my fro working. My hair grows long.
How do you get the back though?
You got
okay. So the back.
You gotta have a
the
back
is the most complicated part. Like, so what I do is I have a handheld mirror.
Yep.
That's right.
And I gotta actually sit on Hey, this sounds crazy, but you ever see them chicks that take them pictures where they sitting on their bathroom countertop with their ass like half on the countertop?
I don't need no more about this, Trish. You're gonna get us flagged, man. Get out of here, man. Get out of here.
Like, hey, I gotta sit on my countertop to cut the back of my head. I gotta have the mirror in my hand, and I gotta use the other mirror, and I gotta sit on the countertop, and that's how I do the back of my head. And that's what takes me the longest, doing the back of my head.
Nah, man, I gotta get a drone, man, and just have it help me out, man. Write some code.
Get a drone hovering behind your head.
Yeah, man. Drone stop beeping if I get it wrong, man. So
one thing for sure though, if you want to cut your hair, you have to learn how to become ambidextrous. Like, there's no way around cut your hair on your own and not being able to use your left hand or your non-dominant hand. Like, I'm right-handed. I had to learn how to cut my hair with my left hand too, because you got to be able to use both your hands.
This is getting outrageous, man. Some of these guys walking around with fros, man, looking like Craig Mack. You won't be around next year.
They kicking that flavor here.
Flavor Yo, but Q walk around with the fro. So he been sporting that for some years now.
Yeah.
Or the guys with the receding hairline, they walking around with hats on and stuff.
Oh man,
it's growing in.
Well, they're
looking like cul-de-sacs.
Well, they're lucky, man. They're lucky. The pandemic is taking place, man. So everybody's all bundled up and whatnot, hoodied up and whatnot. You can get away with it now as a brother, man. Before, you've been walking around with a hoodie on your head and a mask on your face, man. Stopping first with it, tore you out the frame. They would have got you, man. They would have got you. So, yeah, man. So my I don't like to give out financial advice, man, but they're saying that Black people don't have at least $400 in their Actually, they didn't say just Black people, but 70% of Americans, according to Rubini, don't have $400 in their they don't have $400.
That's America, fam. That's America. That's cross America.
Yeah.
You have to look at rural America, where most white folks are. They're living just above the poverty line. So that's a lot of people, dude. So yes, we have that issue, but that's kind of enterprise wide out here.
Yeah. I see.
They make it appear that Black people are only poor people, and you walk across Louisiana, Mississippi, and all of this. I mean, all the central states, Oklahoma, Kansas, all those states. I mean, man, shoot, all those poor folks up there are, guess what? Caucasian people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you walk through a town and you might not see any Black people in there. Half the town's boarded up, and people sitting in a cafe jabbing all day long. It's full of people, everybody drinking one cup of coffee.
Yeah, and I mean that's what's going on, and like I'm saying, we're gonna see some changes, because this is clobbering a lot of people, man, clobbering a lot of folks, and there's gonna be clamor for change. So as I said, I think we're going to be moving to a more socio-capital system, and I mean we got some socialism aspects in this game that's going to increase. We're going to see that more in I think in our banking system, in our employment arrangements, and so forth. I think we're gonna start to see some big changes here.
I want to see how many of those people are going to say, you know what, when EA comes down, I'm not taking it. I'm not a communist. I'm not taking it.
What folks are going to say, I'm a survivalist, so I'm going to do exactly what I have to do. And that's what people are going to come down on. Because at the end of the day, people want to, they like checks. They like to have checks. And, and that's just how that works. So, all that crap goes out the window when folks start seeing, start looking down into the abyss, and ain't nothing looking back at them. Like, I don't know if I want to go down that road. So they want to stay right where they know that they can survive, and that's how that's going to work. So,
Let's go to Tafari. Got his hand raised.
Hey, what's up? I found the Black Brain Trust when I was looking for tech news. I was trying to find out ways to stay up to date on new technology, and I was just wondering if you guys had any suggestions of other sources you use to stay up to date on what's going on in the industry.
I'm subscribed to quite a few paid subscriptions. Obviously I'm a member of CompTIA, so I get a lot of email from them. ZDNet, I subscribe to that. If you look at the links in the chat, not the links in the chat, but the links in the docket, that's usually a good indicator of sources that we use. So go back to the previous live stream and look at the docket in the description beneath the video. You'll see that
Okay, that's great. And I have another question about cybersecurity. I'm actually working, doing some courses to get my Security Plus, and I just want to know realistically, is it possible to land a SOC analyst position having my Security Plus certification?
depends on who's doing the hiring. It depends on what the demand is. SOC analyst, you can be a SOC analyst without a Security Plus, but Security Plus is going to help you get past the interview, or at least get up to the interview. It depends on the complexity of the role. A lot of people that I know that went into cybersecurity also came from like an IT auditor's role. So IT auditing is a side of security that no one really pays attention to, but it's actually critical. I know some people who got into cybersecurity through red team work, through penetration testing. So auditing, penetration testing, those sort of areas are critical. And most people skip right past them, but they pay pretty lucrative as well. So I would look into those areas. SOC life isn't for everyone. It could be very dreadful. There could be a lot of bullying going on up in there, depending on what the culture is, man. SOC life is usually anywhere between 6 to 9 months because it has such high turnover.
Oh, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, man. Tech as a staple, or has become a staple now in this pandemic. That's what's keeping the markets up. The tech, Zoom, Slack, Microsoft's Teams and Skype, Apple's iPhone and stuff like that. Tech is the new staple and the most critical staple right now during the pandemic.
Well, in any almost say disaster or any kind of new move that's being made anywhere in any society, even like you said, even with disasters and all, it's technology that moves everything forward. It's tech. It's not politics. It's not just financing or whatever. It's it's technology. And and here we are. We're looking at what's doing the most right now. It's technology. I mean, everybody now is on Zoom and so forth. Just like you said, Mike, or on their phones doing video chats and the whole deal. It's technology that's driving this game. And what I believe we're going to see a lot more of course, as this subsides, as far as working home and people operating from there and dealing with these various technologies that we're using right now, we're going to see a lot more of that. This is just going to push things that way a lot more. They're counting on, they have to do this right now, and it's seeming to be very effective.
Yeah, the tech companies are what's keeping things together right now. Service providers and especially Amazon, AWS, Google for another.
I saw a report on CNBC that they're doing a lot of layoffs in a lot of these companies also.
Well, yeah, because nobody's in the office, right? You don't really need certain people.
Yeah, so certain kind of staff, but other staff, like I was in a recruiting meeting, and they use Zoom, and then it was pretty funny because you guys are gonna laugh at this, but all of a sudden they're like, "Who's Nagone 11?" I was like, "Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. Let me look."
Change your name.
Who's Nagone 11? So I had to change my name in there, and I didn't. I just, because I said I got a Zoom account, so we can just go right in there, and they were like, "Nagone 11? Who's that?" I was like, "Oh, that's me." Yeah, it was pretty funny. So, but yeah, everyone, we're all using Zoom now, man. Everybody's on Zoom. Wow, I didn't know so many companies.
You almost revealed your secret identity, your manosphere identity.
Yeah, man, it came right up. They're like, "Who's the Gold 11?" I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
I'm like, "Oh, I know you. You're that guy in the manosphere that's always talking that. I love your stuff."
Yeah.
Going in on folks, acting crazy.
I know, right?
Yeah, right.
No. Tech is a new major staple right now. Even past your agriculture.
Yeah.
I looked at one of these videos about Tyson. Tyson and JBS and a couple of the other ones, man. Pretty horrific. There was stuff that goes on in there, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm surprised the
really
government
bad,
cracked down, man.
really bad, really bad.
People walking around with COVID, man, inside these meat packing places, man, coughing up on meat. Take that meat home. Got COVID meat. So
Well, they shut a lot of the meat packing places down, and then they had to reopen because they were saying that that's why you've got some farmers and other people who are not able to move their product. A couple of farmers have been committing suicide, man, because they're sitting there with their products going bad, and stuff like that, and they can't go out, they can't move their stuff out, and they're losing their minds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly what's going on, and meat is a big one. So yeah, this is a tough one, man. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we can only look at the predictive models for recovery, L's and W's and U's and V's and stuff like that. So, it's just gonna be very strange.
What's the word on a vaccine? I'm sure they're working on it, but has anybody heard anything?
Yeah, there was some news this morning that came out that there's a possibility that they have one, but the thing is that what they found is that it's mutating to a point where the whatever they discovery that they had to solve one part of the COVID, it's actually mutating into something different every single time, or at least every so often, it's mutating to something else. So they don't know. They, from what I heard from Rubini and somebody at MIT as well, they said you may not see something for quite some time.
Well, that's what my doctor was saying. He was saying that they had a he's saying, well, we can have it in a few months because they already have a vaccine that's already working, and he was telling me this because he's up on this stuff as he reads, and he's constantly in contact with the CDC on a regular and consistent basis. I think daily, I believe he has his daily meetings with them. He has a doctors group that they meet with the CDC, and he was telling me that they did have something, but they didn't know if this was going to be sufficient enough to cover what would what as the virus changes, would this give you enough coverage? And that's why I told Mike, I said, my doctor said that they could have something up in 3 months, and he was like, that's not possible. But I was like, they already had something, but they didn't know if it could cover everyone. Can they mass produce it and get it out in the amounts that they need in a few months? That's a whole other question that may not be possible. But they suppose have something that's close for right now. But who knows? I mean, there's so much. We're just not getting the whole deal on this right now. I think there's a lot of things that's held back.
How long did it take them to come up? I don't know if any of y'all know this, but how long did it take them to come up with a polio vaccine, given that it had this type of it was considered a pandemic at one time?
Well, it's kind of, you can't really gauge that because the technology is a lot different now. We have a lot more advanced technology to allow for the development of a vaccine quicker. But the process that really hinders the vaccine development is actual testing and what is considered to be adequate testing. So now you'll probably have an accelerated timeline given the actual crisis that we're in. So they would try to fast track the vaccine development. But then once the development comes to the marketplace, you have to ask yourself, who's going to be a willing participant? Because is it going to be an attenuated live virus? I would imagine that it would be an attenuated live virus. And so with an attenuated live virus, people are wondering, okay, well, if I take this vaccine, will I actually become infected with COVID? Mm-hmm. And that's an actual valid concern.
Yeah.
So who's going to be the guinea pig? Nagona Levy, you signing up first?
Well, I'm sure people that.
No. I'll let you handle that one, man.
I'm sure people that are, I don't know. What are people that have active infection?
Well, the thing is, that's what they're saying. Like I said, there's still a lot of testing going on for different. We covered the cannabis chat on Sunday. There's a brother in Jamaica, a doctor in Jamaica, who's working on a COVID solution through marijuana. through cannabis. So a lot of variations that can come out of this. I mean, it's still, like you say, he's only just in the first phase of testing.
And it seems like he's getting some promising results, which I find very interesting. They want to keep that information quiet, bothersome. But then again, I guess there's nothing conclusive there as of yet. So, but it looks promising. So I don't know.
Our company is still in phase 1. So we're the largest pharmaceutical firm. So I don't know. I mean, we partner with somebody as well, another small pharmaceutical firm. So it'd be a while based on the emails I've seen this morning. So
yeah, he said as far as the testing will come through, and if they can, fast track the testing and really get this thing, camera ready. It's difficult because, like I say, as this virus mutates, they're thinking, what they may have come up with, how much protection will I give you, and so forth, and a lot of questions. So I think we can come up with some. The question is, will it work? Go ahead.
The question is that how do you verify the actual efficacy of it unless you actually put the vaccine into humans. Like, you can get a gauge of efficacy by maybe injecting rodents or primates, but that's no true gauge of the efficacy. So you have to find willing participants to engage in those trials. Okay, and then you spoke of the guy in Jamaica that has some promising developments with the cannabis or hemp. The question then becomes is from an actual ethical standpoint, should he be compelled to divulge information that he's come up with thus far? Because again, we're talking about Jamaica is a country that has some level of development, but there is a degree of poverty there in comparison to the United States. One could argue. And so, is it wrong of him to maybe keep his research to himself so that way he can financially benefit from it? Because if he shares that information with another corporation, who's to say the corporation just doesn't steal this information and then develop a vaccine and say, oh, well, we developed it on our own. It had nothing to do with the information.
It's going through patent right now. It's going through patent pending right now. So he already submitted it. At least according to the article. That was I think that was probably a few months ago. So
it's complex here because maybe he can. I know he's been following that as well.
It was Jay that submitted the article. So
it was Jay.
Jay's not here right now, but
I just want to jump in real quick and just say this one thing. I just went to 3 Walmarts looking for an i7 processor laptop.
Okay.
And every Walmart I went to, actually I went to another Walmart yesterday that was right by my house. So that makes 4 Walmarts. Every last Walmart is completely sold out of laptops. Completely.
Yeah.
Not one laptop, not even the cheap laptops, not the super expensive one. They're all sold out.
Yeah.
So then my question is that, when you spoke of that article that referenced, I believe it was 70% of Americans have less than $400 in their savings account. Yep. Like, at some point, we got to stop feeling sorry for people who are in dire financial straits because of poor financial stewardship. Now, I'm in a position to buy a laptop. I'm good for the next 6 months if I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
But I'm still working. But I'm wondering, okay, so who's buying these laptops? Okay, so
government.
Maybe you can account for the government's buying these laptops from Walmart.
Well, to an extent, yeah. There's been a big purchase order by states to provide laptops for their city and state staff that need to work remote. And so the city of Boston already ordered 20,000 laptops. This was about a month and a half ago. 20,000. So they're going to provide them to the students. This isn't even for the staff. You factor in the staff, you're talking about another couple thousand or so. Those laptops, laptop big purchases, man. At this point.
Well, I mean, generally speaking, right? Like the laptops, like I got a school laptop. That's the reason why I'm buying the laptop, is because my school, the laptop that I had when I was in college, is now is no longer functional. Mm-hmm. So, there was like the laptop. I you don't even find these laptops in the store, like the ones that they gave us. So then you look at the laptop that they're selling, like from a retail standpoint, it seems like a little bit different from what they was, and there's so much variation. Generally speaking, like if you're buying like a mass order, it would be, pretty much the same laptop across the board, for a level of consistency. And then you look at the fact that this is like a retail storefront. So are these companies going into, or are they pulling stock from the actual retail front?
They're more than likely, some of these people are getting vouchers, going there, going buy a laptop. And so that's what's happening. That's why there's a crisis for computing right now.
Yeah, especially for schools.
Yeah.
Like you have all these elementary kids, high school kids, middle school kids, who now have to transition to online learning.
Yep.
So they have to find, like you said, they have to provide the vouchers for these people to get like the utilities for them to actually receive their education.
Yeah. Chromebooks, man, really big now, overtaking Microsoft and Apple. You're getting 70% of the computing power with 1/3 of the price. So what I'm saying is, don't automatically assume that poor people just run around and buying laptops because they're not financially literate. But it's a lot of demand to work from home, and there's a lot of jobs popping up for work from home now too. A lot of customer service jobs, and they're paying pretty well. So people are going around and go get those laptops as soon as possible, because you can write it off on your taxes later. So you're going to run around and find these stores empty of laptops at this point. That's
Sure.
Yeah, and think about all the students too who don't have access to the the computer labs on campus and things like that.
Check the pawn shops if they haven't sold out of them already.
Nah, that's not what Trish do. Trish was fresh and new, man.
You can still buy. I just bought a Mac from Amazon.
Listen. I don't want no. I don't want no sex doll midget porn in my browser history. From these pawn shop laptops, man.
You clean it out. I'm on right now. I'm literally, while I'm talking, I am typing on a HP Spectre i7 that I bought like almost 2 years ago.
How much you pay for it?
This one I paid $300 for it.
That's cheap. That's pretty. That's
dirt cheap. And you
that's
can
still short money.
That's what?
Short money. That's like.
Dude, I had to sacrifice going to the Aldo store just to go get this.
Here comes this guy, man.
This guy, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, $300.
Man, it's probably all kind of DNA in that keyboard. Listen, I don't want no used laptop.
Bro, you can find
DNA in the keyboard.
You can find some great stuff, especially near a college campus.
Yeah, I mean, for students and stuff like that, yeah, I can see him do it. A $300 laptop, that's great. For a student, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's no money.
Yeah, but Trish wants new though. Trish wants new. So
what are new laptops now? I would have bought one for my grand. What new laptops? What, $700, $800?
It's not worth.
I paid $2,000 for my tablet. So with 5G.
Well, Mike, you put a lot of shit on there,
bro. How much RAM does your tablet have?
$2,000 for a tablet?
That shit is stacked. Mike got this shit stacked.
Negro.
How much?
Yeah, but see, like Mike could justify that purchase. Oh, wait, no, hey, but Mike could justify that purchase because his job is in computing. You see what I'm saying? Like if your job is in computing, I would expect you to get the best of the best. My job is not in computing.
You can't really compare Mike. You can't really compare Mike to like the regular computer buyer, the cybersecurity dude and all that. His shit is stacked.
Mike, what type of laptop do you have? What type is it?
I have a HP EliteBook X2.
You got the professional laptop.
Yeah.
How much RAM? How much RAM does it have on it?
This is 16 with the i5. I didn't go for the i7 because the problem with the i7 is that it gets too hot and then it throttles back, and so you're not really getting all of the performance that you wish you were getting.
It's always best on a desktop.
Yeah, it only works best on the desktop. So especially when you're unplugged from the power source, from the adapter, you're not going to get very far with an i7. It's just not going to be worth it.
So I actually did a recent build. I got an i7 9700K with 5700 XT Radeon graphics.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of regret it because like I should have went with AMD, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't make AMD for these ones, but for Triz may not need an i7. He can just get by with an i5.
Oh, Mike, but I'm trying to do some things behind the scenes, so that's why. That's the reason why I want a really fast processor. I mean, I may get by with a is it a Radeon R7? Is that like the equivalent?
A Ryzen.
A Ryzen R7 or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's actually faster. Yeah, it's faster than the Intel chip.
Yeah, so
and it consumes less.
But I was out. So I was actually looking because I went to the Walmart. One of the Walmarts actually had the Ryzen computers there, and they had an R7. But I mean, they were all sold out. I mean, they didn't have any computers at all.
Yo, dude, don't buy a computer from Walmart.
Why?
Listen, the price they had for an i7 was, I want to say, $599.
Well, Trish, you got a Fry's area, right? You got Fry's in Seattle, right?
Oh yeah, but I think the Fry's are closed right now.
Okay.
Fry's in the Best Buy.
There was something going on with Fry's even before this whole situation kicked off. Where if you went into a Fry's store, I know the one in Dallas over here or in Arlington, the shelves were empty. Everybody, everyone was like, "What's going on with Fry's? Are they going out of business?" And they were like, "No,
same thing.
They changed their supplier."
Is there a Micro Center in Seattle?
No. There is one in Houston though. There's one in Houston for sure. Cause I used to get the papers in Houston for the Micro Center.
Yeah.
But see, the thing about it is like they got a Best Buy that has curbside pickup, but the Best Buy, all of the i7 and R7 equivalents, they start at like $1,200. Like they don't have a $600 i7 because the Walmart has the Walmart i7 is $700, but they got like a rollback right now. So the i7 is i7 is $600.
That means they made a sacrifice somewhere in the product. Either the display is not the trackpad or something is off. If you.
No, I was just gonna say that Tristan so much is worried about that. He's saying he needs the processing power. So
he just wants the processing power. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
What he really needs. But I don't think we're gonna see any difference between the i7 and the i5 on that particular laptop.
Well, see, the problem with the i5s is that all the i5s only have they may have max 8 gigabits of RAM. So
No.
I'm talking about Walmart.
No, he's right. He's right about that. He's right.
I'm going to Walmart. Remember, I'm going to Walmart. I'm not Mike V. I'm not about to spend $2,000 on a damn computer because I still need to buy. I'm trying to buy some property. When the prices drop a little bit lower. So I got to kind of still be mindful of my budget. But I still want to buy a computer with decent processing power. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it. So Walmart, and maybe even Fred Meyer. I'm about to go to Fred Meyer because I got to go grocery shop anyway. I'm gonna see if they got any computers in there. I doubt it, but we'll see. So I really don't want to spend. I don't want to spend any more than $800.
Dude, are y'all dudes really addicted to buying something new? Like, you don't have to buy it new.
Yeah, but for
certain things I want to buy new.
Yeah, he wants a warranty. He wants a warranty with it. So
yeah.
Let's go to Renaissance, man. He just came onto the panel, man. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Chilling.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I bought my laptop used, so definitely, can't go wrong either way in my mind. If you want new, go for it. But you can definitely get some good deals to use. I was gonna say what you were saying earlier, Mike, about states purchasing laptops. My mom, I was talking to her the other day, and she was saying. She works for the state, and she was saying, yeah, they are basically scrambling to go get people laptops because a bunch of people have desktops because they're worried about this coming back in the fall. So like her director and her boss, they're all scrambling right now and figuring out how do I get all my employees laptops because they kind of just drug their feet on it.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil, man. Before, people weren't thinking about that type of stuff, man. They relied on their iPhone and their iPad. Now, that's not the case anymore. You need something a little bit more powerful. So that's what it's coming down to. You know, Triz might be able to get by with the E-machines. Maybe a
Mike, don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that.
Maybe a gateway.
Hey, wait. Do they even still make E-machines?
No,
Dude.
E-machines gone, man. E-machines got purchased by Gateway. Gateway got purchased by Acer, so they all got swallowed up together.
E-machines was the first computer I ever had when I came to the US.
Hilarious.
Wait. Acer is a US based company, right?
No, Acer is a let's say Taiwanese company.
Asus is what?
Asus?
Asus is Korean, I think.
Asus is Hong Kong, I think. I think it's from Hong Kong.
Acer is the worst laptop I ever had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The worst.
Yeah, I hate
Compact.
Acer. I won't touch an Acer.
Well, I mean, you know what? See, I think it all boils down to the processor. 'Cause I don't know what processor. I'm sure they use like the cheapest processor they possibly could. But I bought an Acer laptop from Circuit City. No, not Circuit City. Best Buy. It was the worst purchase I ever made.
Oh yeah, it bees like that, man. It bees like that. But like I said before, tech is the new major staple right now that keeps the U.S. together right now. If you're gonna, looking at stocks, make sure you check out, the tech sector stocks. That's been, going up the last 6 weeks. Zoom has gone right through the roof. AMD right through the roof.
And WebEx, those guys stocks.
Well, I think that's Cisco. So,
I was gonna say exercise equipment too, like home exercise equipment. Like I have some Bowflex Select Techs that I bought earlier, and I was just looking around on Amazon. They're sold out, and I happened to look on eBay. They normally sell for about $300. They were going for close to $1,000.
Oh yeah. No. Out here, if you want some Select Techs, right? If you want the 5.52s, that's the one that goes from 5 to 52 pounds.
Yep, that's what
those Select Techs. Those Select Techs are anywhere between $750 and $800. If you want the 1092, the 1090s that go from 10 to 90 pounds, those is $1,200 on up. And I saw a guy selling some Select Tech 1090s, 1090s, and he wanted $1,300 for one, and one of them was missing one of the plates. Wow. I don't know how he got the plate off of there, but one of them was missing one of the plates. I'm like, yo, what the hell? And then, me, I got a Bowflex. I got the actual Bowflex for $100 from this guy because nobody would buy from him because he was Chinese. And my thing is this.
Nobody would buy from him because he was Chinese? People, are you serious?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I talked to this guy for an hour. He said he owned a grocery store, and he said he's gonna have to shut down the grocery store. He said nobody's coming in his grocery store. It's like he's basically finished. So at any rate, what the main takeaway from this is that you have people who complain about capitalism all of the time, but the minute there's an opportunity for them to partake in capitalism for their benefit, they're all in. Because when you look at all these Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, eBay, Craigslist, everybody has products that they know they can make a profit on, and they're selling them for insane markup. We're talking about literal price gouging, and these are private citizens doing it. But I guarantee you, some of these private citizens doing it are the same people who's consistently complaining about capitalism.
Yep.
Imagine that. People are only concerned about their own benefit at the end of the day. That's it.
Yeah. The thing is,
I was gonna say, Mike, Peloton stock went up. I know one of my friends just bought one of those.
I was just about to mention that Peloton stock. Whoever makes the Bowflex just came out with a comparative product to that. I forget what they call it now. If you look on their website, it's on there. But
it's called the Revolution.
I think that may be it.
Also, Bowflex came out with it is based. I think it's based on that same Revolution technology. They have like that looks like a one of those cable cross machines. They have like a cable cross machine, and like this is like one of the like a cheap one, because the cable cross machines usually cost about $4,000, $5,000, because I thought about buying one until I seen the price of how much they cost. But Bowflex has one. It's like an actual cable cross machine for like $2,000. So
yeah, but it takes like 15 hours to put that damn thing together, man.
Well, from what they said a technician comes out to your house and assembles it for you.
Not during COVID.
Well, yeah.
So.
If one company to invest in would be Phoenix International Limited.
Well, what do they do?
They're the parent company to OnlyFans.com. So
I was thinking about that. Oh yeah.
now, and I'm serious. I just literally did a Google search, and like the first thing that comes up is Phoenix International Limited stock price. So everybody's trying to find out like how to invest in this company because of the number of OnlyFans. The way OnlyFans is just shooting up in this time right now.
But are they publicly traded though?
Not yet. I think they're not, and they're not yet.
No,
they would have if they're going to expand. They would have to.
But that's this kind of goes off on a tangent. But you know, the fact that you have a surge in the popularity of OnlyFans.com, you know, that goes to show you. I mean, obviously, not everybody is in this particular manosphere space, but I guarantee you that some of the people who claim to be, you know, red pill and whatnot, you know, they make up a lot of the customer base of OnlyFans.com. A lot of hypocrisy going on.
Apparently, sites where you can interface with the actual celebrity. I think that was what the whole Fire Festival was supposed to be about. Where it's supposed to be an app where you can like book the artist or talk to the artist or have contact with the artist. I think that's what it was about. I mean, I heard the other day that Stacey Dash is on one of these sites now. That she's on one of these sites.
$50. That's all it costs to get a love letter from her. A love message, love video.
Oh wow!
On her OnlyFans, that's how much it costs.
It's sort of. I don't think it's OnlyFans. She has her own service.
Have they actually said how much it has gone up? Like accounts have gone up like 40% or something, or is this like just people just generally?
They said they saw a 1 million account increase. I think like in a week.
My goodness, that's a lot. That's a lot of money, bro.
Well, for them, yeah. Up until the pandemic, starts to subside, and then people go back.
What, people are gonna start going back to work? No.
Well, Mike V.
Some people may not.
Mike V.
No, they're not.
Mike
Especially
V.
if they're making money from it.
Well, Mike V, have you inquired about information security needs at OnlyFans.com?
No, I'd rather them not have any security so they can go through their own, their own little assessment, kind of like Ashley Madison. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so let them deal with that. That I'd rather them go out of business than anything else, man.
Why?
Huh?
Why? These thoughts out here are gonna starve.
But think about this, Mike. Streets. But Mike, at the end of the day, like, okay, let's just say hypothetically, OnlyFans went out of maybe repeated cyber attacks put OnlyFans out of business. They couldn't make it make sense from a financial standpoint. There would be another site that will pop up almost instantaneously because the business model has already been made. So people know, okay, there's an actual market for people just to sit around and look at women on camera.
Is this any different from Patreon technically?
No, there isn't. And the thoughtage that exists out here is endless. the thoughtage. And it is on the increase right now with niggas sitting home. Trust me, man. Folks are trying to light up on that shit.
You know what? I'm really mad that I didn't think about this type of thing. Like, I really am. Like, God, the opportunity.
Well, those are short-term money. That's short-term money.
It is. It is short.
Something else is going to come by and usurp it at some point. That's just the way the social media market works.
Well, I think this is here for quite some time. It's going to be here for quite some time. If these people can make money and sustain themselves, and like I said, the price of trim has probably dropped significantly in the last 20 years. But I'm just saying, if these, of course, so if these, and I'm not saying they're making millions, but if let's say a $15 an hour job, instead of going to, and this in anybody's mind, instead of going to a $15 an hour job, if they can make the equivalent of that just online, a lot of them are going to stay on that. So
A lot
I don't
of
see
women.
it going anywhere for a while.
It's only
A lot of women are doing it, man.
It's only as good as the IRS says. Once the IRS comes up in here, so it's game over for them. So.
Yeah. As soon as they catch you, but a lot of people trying to fly under the radar.
Yeah, no, they're
Right.
watching all that stuff. They're watching.
I'm sure they're paying taxes. I'm sure they're paying taxes on it.
Well, I mean, maybe on OnlyFans,
They have to report it.
you know, I'm getting like messages, right? Like now, you need when you're on these dating app streets, you know, you start seeing some stuff. So like now, I'm like getting like messages that are so bold as to like, I got a message today with this girl. She just straight up wrote me, like she initiated the contact. She just wrote me a message out the blue and just said, you know, $50 for this, $100 for that, $75 for that, $200 for this. I'm gonna let you use your imagination for what those prices were actually attached to, but it was just like
so
really
Triz,
bold.
is that what you were driving to? Okay, we heard you driving in the background. Is that where you were going? Damn.
Oh no, I'm going to different stores now. I ain't doing
That's what you call it, a store?
Yeah, Trish waited to the last minute to get an i7, man. I'm not sure why.
Oh boy. But nah, it's that has to be.
No, that's crazy. The mentality though, like you get in some economic trouble, and the very first thing to pop in your head to how do I get out of this is jump on OnlyFans.
Well, I mean, but it's the oldest profession in the world.
It is.
We all know that those that got it are gonna flaunt it. They know, and they're probably thinking, ain't no, a lot of people think in the short term now. So especially in this social media age, a lot of people a lot of women are thinking it's not like Prince Charming is gonna roll up on me anytime soon. So let me cash out while I can. So there's a 60-year-old on there. A 60-year-old lady on there.
Yeah. Let's go to Farrell because he has his hand raised.
What it do, y'all?
Yo, what it do, man?
Man, not much late night driving out here in freaking Montana. But not everybody, it's funny when you guys talk about OnlyFans. Not majority of your women are not going to be able to infiltrate that market. I can see where you're good-looking, so-called 8, 9s, and 10s. They can it would be lucrative for them, but kind of like your girl next doors, your average chicks. And it's funny because I got into a debate with this girl, and she was like, well, dudes used to pay me $65 just for a photo. And I'm like, what? $65? I'm like, you know what the going rate for a Punani down here in Atlanta? I said, it's $50. I'm like, just because you got one dude to fall for that, don't mean that there's another sucker that's going to be willing to pay that, especially with COVID. I think you guys said earlier, it ain't too many simps with good paying jobs that's going to be working.
Nah.
That can be able to pay that. So that OnlyFans stuff, and then mind you, OnlyFans is subscription based. Yeah. So if people don't like what they see on there, they can always cancel that subscription. It can go back to X videos or Pornhub and start seeing stuff for there. Because all the thing they really do on OnlyFans, some may have sex, some of them just sitting there blowing a hookah with their nipple rings and with their bra on showing. So I mean, there's things like that. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna change gears for a second. What's it looking like from a logistics standpoint that you're seeing? Are you booked throughout the month or what?
Well, my next load, I'm doing it. I'm carrying it by week cases. Like after this, because I'm delivering to Boise, Idaho at the Winco. And then my next load that I have is I'm picking up in Ontario, Oregon, which is like on the borderline of Idaho and Oregon on I-84. And then I'm going to I'm delivering all the way to Riverside. And I've done these accounts before when I'm on the West Coast, because how I do it is I pick up either in Nampa or Ontario, take US 93 all the way to 15, then I pass through Vegas, go straight to East LA, Riverside, or Pico Rivera, one of the three, drop off there, pick up a load at Americo, and we deliver to Safeway in Auburn, Washington, which Supertris, you should know that area, which is outside of Seattle, about 25 miles.
Oh yeah, I was just in Auburn at the Walmart.
Yeah, I do that account in the West Coast, delivering at the Safeway distribution center. So we're doing it week by week because some of the meat plants have closed, like the Tyson and Waterloo, Iowa. But a majority of your Tyson plants in Iowa. I think Russellville, Arkansas, which that's actually the headquarters for Tyson. They done closed down. I think the Smithfield, they done closed down. JB, was it JB Swift? They done closed. I think the only meat plants that's probably still open, like Cargill, Purdue, because I did a Purdue load from Georgia all the way to Minnesota, and what's that other meat company called? Sanderson. So, but your certain Tysons, especially the good paying loads, contracts for Tysons, it's just, it's killing us. And not only that, certain dairy products, dairy companies, they done closed their doors for a good little minute. I think certain General Mills, certain distribution centers, they closed some of those. So it's just, it's just the load, plus the load boards. It's just been hell, man. All the loads are cheap, and it's just drastic. A lot of drivers are struggling out here. A lot of them, to be honest with you, a lot of drivers have to turn in their trucks, who were owner operators, because they just couldn't make the truck note.
Wow, this is getting outrageous. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So.
Mike, these Manosphere brothers gonna be walking through your yard, Mike. Be looking for squirrels.
Yeah, man. They don't realize that the squirrels and the pigeons and stuff like that, the seagulls, are all protected under law, man. You can't eat them things, man. Even if you wanted to, you would end up with another outbreak. I mean, you try to eat a squirrel or a seagull, something like that, man. Those things got so many diseases. You'll have another Wuhan right in the major Black community.
Boy,
what about puppies?
Gonna be worse.
What about puppies? We're the biggest eater of Chinese food, man. So it won't be just a little step.
Oh man, no, you eat one of those squirrels or something like that, man, it'd be Wuhan all over again, man. It'd be blaming Black people. It'd be trying to get rid of people. Send the ass to Africa. Yeah, Pan-African movement. A real Pan-African movement. Send asses right back on the ship. Get them niggas out of here. So I'm serious, man. Guys in the manosphere are outrageous, man. They just don't know, man. All this stuff about
but it's funny you mentioned that, because I have not heard of major, like, a lot of people dropping, like, just from my people back in Nigeria. I really haven't heard anything like people just dying. And over there, I mean, the population density is even worse. So, you would expect, that it would just sweep through, especially a place like Nigeria or West Africa, it would just sweep through there. But you're not hearing these stories coming out of those places. You're really not hearing them.
No. It's the same thing in the Caribbean. You're not really hearing a whole lot of cases down there either. So
that makes you wonder, like.
No, it's these highly populated areas. The article we read earlier this week talked about genetics playing a significant role. So maybe, Europeans have a different strand, maybe, which is why it's accelerating so fastly over there.
A lot of these megacities in Africa are hugely Lagos is densely populated. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
no, they said this morning.
It will sweep through it.
Yeah, they said this morning they're predicting at least 100,000 dead on the continent by the end of the year or something like that. So if they don't actually come up with some kind of
100,000.
Yeah, because it's so social distancing is not an option for some of these places. So
well, Mike, according to people in the manosphere, like you said, Africa's nothing but a bunch of people living in huts. So, you know, not too many people traveled over there. They don't have airplanes or anything. So that's why they're not
I
to the
know,
pirates.
I know they not talking. They gonna be sleeping under a bridge, man. These
man.
folks kill me, man.
Nah, man. These you know, eating mud pies, man. That's what they be out there doing, eating mud pies. So that's what, you know, when I was over there, nobody had a mask on. People were chilling like it was nothing. So I don't know. Only state employees were required to wear masks, but the common civilian population was just chilling. But they're in their winter time too. Right now is winter. Their summertime doesn't come back until September, so they're in the house. They're pretty chilly out there, so they're in the house.
What, in Rwanda?
No, this is in South Africa, so this is winter
Oh,
time.
South Africa.
Yeah, but out there too, it's pretty cold too.
Oh, so this is their winter. Okay.
Yeah, this is their winter. So their spring comes around in July or something like that.
Oh.
Hey, does it snow in South Africa?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Figured that.
Up in the mountains, yeah.
Wow. So their season's pretty much like behind ours, or
Yeah, it flips. It flips.
flips. Okay.
Yeah, because they're south of the equator.
Yeah.
Opposite, like Brazil.
Right.
South
Okay.
America.
Yeah, but as you get closer to the equator, then like I know in West Africa we only have two seasons, rainy and dry season. We don't really have winter like that.
No, but got to look at the investments on these stocks, man. Tech stocks are booming right now. Cryptocurrency is obviously going to be out of control because everybody's rushing for it. All the yo-yos are rushing for it. I don't recommend anything in that area. You know, you play at your own risk in that area. So lunch money only. You know, whatever you're going to spend on lunch money, that's what your initial investment is going to be. What you're willing to spend. Also, I would definitely look at cars right now. If you didn't have a car before, and you think about purchasing, you might be able to find a good deal. I know a couple of dealerships, you know, especially the American car dealerships, you know, that C7 Grand Sport looking real teethy right now, man, because because they got to move those cars, man. They have 3,000 C7 Corvettes sitting on dealership lots, brand new from last year, 2019, that have not been sold yet. This is a big problem.
Aren't they going to Washington, kind of asking the president for money again? Auto industry.
Yeah, they asked for another bailout.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we get another like sort of program, like kind of like cash for clunkers type of deal.
That's what somebody's been. I think Thai City's been talking about that for a while now. That they were probably moving that area, but electric cars are really what's on the upbeat. So maybe this might accelerate, you know, electric cars to come to the forefront from those other brands instead of Tesla. You see, the reason why the adoption rate is so slow is one, because the economy is not doing well for a lot of people, but two, it's because of infrastructure.
Charging stations.
Yeah, the infrastructure itself needs to be established. Unless you have a house with a 110 or 220 up on it, so that's the deal. You know, like I said, if I can get a C7 for like 42, 43K brand new, I'm taking it. That's a deal. That's a come up. It's not going to depreciate any more than what it is now. Brand new.
Yep.
And then they redesigned in 2020, right?
Yeah.
So that may be the other thing that really, you know, pushes them to really, you know, get off the lot, is you got a new one.
Is it really smart to be spending money though in this time?
Well, it depends. It depends. If let's look at some. I mean, when we talk about cars, we talk about supercars, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are going to maintain their value because they're boutique vehicles. They're boutique because they're hand built and they're rare, and so the value only increases on it. If you look at what do you call it, the Lamborghini or Huracan that thing has maintained its value throughout the whole entire period. It has maintained its value. In fact, in some areas it has increased. So even on the McLarens, the McLaren 570s are actually increasing in value now, not actually decreasing. They went through their decrease period in March, in February, but now they're increasing. And so those cars maintain their value. You're never going to see those cars for like $20,000 on the dealership lot. I mean, on some used car auction. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Those cars will always maintain their value. So they become nice, nice assets to put into your collection, to hodl, to hold on to. So
I think what he was referring to, Mike, was whether or not in this climate such substantial purchase should be made. But I think from your perspective, and perhaps some other people that may be out there listening, or perhaps even on the panel, you'll remain gainfully employed, pandemic or no pandemic, just because of the type of field that you're in. Now, even we'll just say, for instance, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that your particular company goes under. If your company goes under today, you'll be able to find a job tomorrow. That's just the nature of what you do. Like my job. If my facility closed down, which it would never do, but let's just say, for instance, my facility closed down. I mean, I already got I get emails every week from people looking for my particular skill set, because I've worked every aspect of healthcare. So I can do anything from management to bedside care.
Yes.
And so, from my perspective, I'm looking at this pandemic as an opportunity. Like for you, there's a certain car that you've had your eye on. Now this presents an opportunity to get that car at a very attractive price point. And for me, I'm looking towards trying to get into some other investments. And, this presents me an opportunity to get into the investments at a price point that makes a lot of sense for me. So I'm not changing, I'm going to still make purchases regardless.
The thing is, and it's a good point that you're bringing up about the sort of careers that we have versus what some people may not. When I was on the continent, man, there was a brother who was walking around in his scrubs. He was an American brother, man. He was a nurse. He registered nurse, man. And somebody from one of these major hospitals in East Africa saw him walking somewhere and offered him a job. And now he's managing the hospitals over there as the head nurse. He's like, I don't even know if there's a term for it, but he basically oversees like 3 or 4 hospitals from a nursing perspective.
CNO. It's called
CNO,
a CNO.
Chief Nursing Officer.
CNO. Yeah, CNO. Yeah, like the CNOs over here, like the CNO at my hospital make about $450,000 a year.
Really?
CNO. Yeah.
Shit.
It's pretty much like it's just a C-suite, equivalent of like CFO, CEO, all that. So yeah, they get paid like that.
Yeah, she gets paid. It's a female. She gets paid, because they have to release. I don't know if they have to, but they release the actual salaries. I think it's like a union thing. They got to release like the CEO type salary. So I know the CEO is like, I think he makes like a couple million a year, but the CNO makes like $450,000 a year, and all she does is sit up in meetings all day. I've seen her one time.
I'm getting so many. It's crazy. I'm getting so many offers for nursing contracts. The only problem is just I don't know how this is going to go with school going online, because some places have adapted, and some places, like the school I'm in particular, they just gave us a bunch of busy work, and now it's just messing everything up. Because
So they can't do until what's going to happen going forward. So
well, for the students that weren't, if you weren't accustomed to it, and then all of a sudden you get flooded with all this work to do, and they're still giving you these crazy deadlines. I'm swamped right now. So it's ridiculous.
I was going to say, on top of that too, I know I've talked to people like more of college age students who are like, that, hey, I'm if they put school online, I'm pretty much going to just defer it for a semester, because they're still like, hey, I want the experience as well. So you might see some enrollments drop.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to register this coming fall, this coming summer, this coming fall, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah, the reason why I bring that up is because Trish actually brings up a very good point about career career trajectory. Had you enrolled back in September 2019 into a nursing program on a fast track on a BSN, by the time the pandemic is over, at least from a recession standpoint, you would be on your way, man. They're probably
Hey,
gonna.
hey, man, listen. Hey, that's what I did. I went back to school.
Mhm,
I mean, I already because as an RN, you could be an RN with an associate's.
mhm,
And you can have an associate degree in nursing.
mhm.
In my case, I had an associate's in applied science, and so with that, you could still sit for the boards. So I sat for the boards, and I was able to to hold my position and everything like that. And then so then I had the opportunity to go back to school. The job was paying for it, and so I took that opportunity. They paid for my school and everything like that, um, and it was great. It was like the perfect timing because then once I finished, I then switched departments, and so I went from vascular access. I switched to critical care, and it's like I could literally work whenever I want to. Like I kind of pick my own schedule, like, and it's like it's just so convenient. And so you have the added benefit of a degree of job security. I mean, if you're looking for a job, unless you're gonna be an entrepreneur, but like if you're looking for an actual job or career path, you have a high degree of security. You have good working ways. You're working indoors. There's a lot of different tangents that you can go off on. You can go into management, you can go into research, you can do all kind of stuff. And it just gives you that level of peace of mind. Now, and then you don't have to go into nursing. There's like so many things that you can do within the healthcare continuum. They have information security jobs. They have network management jobs. Like, so if you're a computer guy, some people don't even think about looking. Wait, you know what? If I'm in computers, I can get a job at a hospital. If I need some experience.
Do you know that? Do you know that a lot of the people that were on the borderline and said, "Hey, I'm gonna go back to school, but I'm working this and that." A lot of these type of crises, like in 2008, I know so many nurses that were. I know one guy. He worked at a rock quarry, and then when 2008 hit, when the construction it caused a dip in construction, a lot of people lost their jobs. He went to nursing school. I know so many nurses that became nurses after that financial crisis of '08. So what's going to happen is a lot of these programs are going to be general and just like general education. There might be a dip in matriculation, but a lot of these professional programs, everybody's going to start now trying to get into them because they're going to the people that were on the borderline are kind of dragging their feet. They're now going to see, hey, I got to get something secure. So I mean, because it's always been a small number compared to the general enrollment of any institution, but it's say you have like 60 applicants, it's going to almost quadruple overnight.
Well, here's the
Now
thing
not all
about
of them are
that.
going to get in, but it's just
Well,
gonna make it more rigorous, and they can increase the standard.
here's the thing about that, right? So one of the things people have to consider is that when you're talking about nursing, it's a very, very difficult job. It's not like an easy job. Like the actual job itself requires, critical thinking. And like, there's people here that I work with, that may not necessarily be good at their job, but then, do you want to be on the receiving end of their care? Because they don't, some don't even know what they're doing. And then the ones that they not just be efficient at what they're doing. So you have a different degree of not only skill set, but experience level and people who are able to apply their knowledge. And then you couple that with the fact that, if you have a curriculum and it's only online based, there's not the actual clinical portion, or they maybe abbreviate the clinical portion because of the actual COVID stuff going on. Are they really getting that adequate learning experience, right? Because a lot of things, like even with the extensive clinical training and the programs that I've been through, it doesn't necessarily translate completely to actually doing your job. It's one thing to be in clinicals, but then to actually do your job, that's a whole nother thing. But the fact that you had clinicals makes it a little bit more manageable to actually transition to actually doing your job. But imagine not having clinicals at all, or having some type of abbreviated clinicals, and then actually having to get back out there on a job and actually being able to apply the stuff that you learn from an online training module from a book. I mean, this is like an impossibility to actually do it effectively. You know, you're actually putting people's lives in danger. I mean, and I'm not saying there's an easy solution to this, but I mean, you really think about what's going to happen as a result. You're going to have people, number one, not having adequate training, and number two, you're going to have people who flood the marketplace who are not really motivated about doing this, an emotionally and physically difficult job. You know, you have to find a certain motivation to do like for what I do. My motivation doesn't come. Some people are compassionate. My motivation doesn't come from a level of compassion. It comes from me wanting to actually be like more of a perfectionist. I like to do my job, you know, to the utmost of my ability, and I have like a certain, you know, intrinsic standard, and that's what I gauge my work by. Is like I gotta my work has to be perfect, and that's where my motivation comes from. Some people are just compassionate and bleeding hearts, and that's why they do their job the way they do it. But if you only in a job for money, or you're just looking for like a job that has security, you know, it's not going to translate well in your practice, and the people are going to suffer.
Yeah, no, my aunt actually teaches clinicals, so yeah, I know that's, like you said, clinicals is a major part of going through the program, and like you said, the people skills you need, because every person you deal with is not going to be the most cooperative, or the family you deal with is not going to be, you know, Miss Sunshine. So
I hate when people say that. I really do, because, I mean, no offense, but I mean, especially as males, I think money is a big, or job security, or some type of financial. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's in a little time that I've been in nursing, it has. I've seen my prospects, um, you know, get better over time. So I mean, do I love it? No, I don't. Trying to, trying to get out of it, but you know, uh, I think financial incentives is a big motivator for most people in it.
Well, I mean, but if finances is your only motivation, then you're going to do an adequate job. You know, for me, adequate is not good enough. Like if my name was attached to something like if you look in a patient's chart and you see my name anywhere on the chart, there has to be a certain standard of care attached to my name. Like I don't care what the pay is. If I was getting paid pennies, the fact, because I've worked a job where I was getting minimum wage before. I worked at One Price clothing store in San Bernardino, California, and this job was minimum wage. It was a crappy job, crappy clientele, but because my name was attached to it and certain values, morals, ethics, and principles were instilled in me, when I stepped into that job, it was 100% effort. I didn't care what I was getting paid. And I gave 100% effort until I no longer worked there. And so that's where my motivation comes from. Like, you know, there's aspects of the job that I don't like in particular dealing with some family members. And I see certain patterns related to certain demographics as far as being difficult to work with. In addition to some of the more, you know, frequently thought of demographics, there are some other demographics that people may not consider are particularly difficult to work with. But beyond that, you know, I still feel like there's a certain standard that I have to, you know, hold myself to. And, you know, and I know it sounds corny, but I mean, that's just how I feel about it. Like I just can't have my name attached to substandard work. I just can't.
All right, I got this down. Go ahead, Renaissance, and then I have to close out.
No, the only thing I was going to ask you is, I don't mean to derail it. You care to elaborate on some of those hard to work with demographics?
I don't think this is the platform to do that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to create any strife, but yeah, there's certain demographics. I may talk about it on my own platform, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we need another age of Aquarius, man. All right. Shalom, everyone.